The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. After Nicole, the government assessments continue, and it seems Nicole had minimal impact. Abaco and Grand Bahama residents breathing a sigh of relief. And officials getting an up-close look at an Abaco shantytown after the storm. Plus, FTX's assets frozen. The Securities Commission appointing a liquidator. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's there. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. 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 Wake up, wake up.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Friday, November 11th, 2022. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Stephen Hanna will be joining us. Also this morning, we are going to be talking about cervical cancer and what you can do to prevent this. Dr. Gregory Pinto is going to be joining us. Men and women need to be paying attention to this. And later in Morning Blend Business, it's our Safe and Sound series once a month with preventative measures. We are talking about emergency crisis disaster management from readiness to response and recovery. That's all straight ahead. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper is saying that Abaco and Grand Bahama sustained minimal damage as a result of Tropical Storm Nicole. Cooper telling reporters during a government assessment on Abaco yesterday that having gone through Nicole, he recognizes that people are resilient. He says, quote, "Our infrastructure is fairly resilient as well. We've been protected for the most part, having not seen serious damage or injuries or fatalities." Nicole made landfall in Abaco as a tropical storm and Grand Bahama as a hurricane on Wednesday, causing extensive flooding. It was partial flooding at the Leonard M. Thompson International Airport in Marsh Harbor. When the Nassau Guardian visited yesterday, pockets of water still visible on other parts of the island, but it appeared that floodwaters had mostly receded by yesterday. While damage from Nicole was not apparent, the devastation left by Hurricane Dorian 3 years ago still noticeable. Many buildings were still in states of disrepair. Some homes had no windows, while only the foundation remained where other homes once stood. Cooper says Abaco is in need of infrastructural upgrades. He says there hasn't been enough investment in Abaco's infrastructure since Hurricane Dorian ravaged the island in 2019. Meanwhile, officials getting a tour of the farm Shantytown on Abaco yesterday. The farm much bigger than what it was shortly after Hurricane Dorian. The scars left by the horrific Category 5 storm not present. The community, which officials estimate grew from 50 acres to about 200 acres in the last 3 years, divided by a large stretch of unpaved road with deep potholes. Some of the homes are easily visible from that road, while others are tucked away in thick bushes. The Shantytown features a restaurant and other businesses housed in makeshift wooden structures. You can read all about it in today's Nassau Guardian. As FTX Digital Markets CEO Sam Bankman-Fried rang out a mea culpa chorus peppered with expletives to his followers, clients, and investors through Twitter, sending it to Twitter yesterday, apologizing on Twitter, the Securities Commission of the Bahamas has frozen the company's assets and appointed a provisional liquidator for the embattled FTX, now making international headlines. The SEB, releasing a statement late yesterday, explained that it became aware of public statements suggesting that the Bahamas headquartered FTX mishandled client assets and mismanaged and or transferred assets to Alameda Research, which is FTX's supposed sister company in the United States. It said any of those actions would have been in contravention of normal governance without the consent of the company's clients and a potentially unlawful move. According to the SEB statement, Brian Sims KC of Lennox Patton was appointed as provisional liquidator for FTX Digital Markets Limited. The commission also suspended the registration and applied to the Supreme Court for the appointment of a provisional liquidator. The statement says that additionally, the powers of the directors of FDM have been suspended, and no assets of FDM, client assets, or trust assets held by FDM can be transferred, assigned, or otherwise dealt with without the written approval of the provisional liquidator. And a Supreme Court judge ruling that a woman who used disparaging names against her gay husband tried to fix him and had him banned from the United States, claiming that she was mentally cruel to her husband. In a November 9th, 2022 ruling, Justice G. Diane Stewart granting a decree nisi to the man against his wife, who is 19 years his senior. The names of the petitioner and respondent were withheld in the ruling to protect their identities. The petitioner in the matter argued that after his marriage, his wife began calling him belittling names and terms to emasculate him and kicked him out of the house. He said their argument stemmed from him not making enough money and his inability to pay the rent. The petitioner, who acknowledged that he is gay under oath, said his wife called him gay, homosexual, and bisexual. The respondent, who wanted to save the marriage, denied that she was cruel to her husband and that she accepted his homosexuality, claiming that she learned her husband was gay after their marriage and claimed that he left the matrimonial home to live with another man, whom he admitted was his lover. The judge ruling that she was satisfied that the petitioner's wife knew he was a homosexual before they got married in 2015. She also questioned why the respondent married her husband knowing that he was gay. You can read more about this story in today's Nassau Guardian. Overseas, Tropical Storm Nicole weakening to a tropical depression overnight as it crossed the Florida Panhandle on its way to Georgia. The storm had sent Florida homes toppling into the Atlantic earlier Thursday and threatened a row of high-rise condominiums in places where Hurricane Ian washed away the beach and destroyed seawalls only weeks ago. As of 10 o'clock last night, the National Hurricane Center advised that the center of the storm was about 20 miles north of Tallahassee. The storm, which caused at least 2 deaths, was the first November hurricane to make landfall in Florida in 37 years and only the third on record. It delivered another devastating blow just weeks after Ian came ashore on the Gulf Coast, killing more than 130 people and destroying thousands of homes. Although Nicole's winds died down after it made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane, its storm surge slammed into the shoreline in the neighboring Barrier Island communities of Wilbur by the Sea and Daytona Beach shores, sending some homes crashing into the ocean. And the Russian Defense Ministry today saying it finished pulling out its troops from the western bank of the river that divides Ukraine's southern Kherson region, including the only provincial capital that Moscow has captured since invading the neighboring country. In a statement carried by Russian state news agencies, the ministry said the withdrawal was completed at 5 a.m. today, and not a single unit of military equipment was left behind. The retreat nonetheless marks another huge setback for Russia in its 8.5-month war in Ukraine. The Kremlin remained defiant today, though, insisting the development in no way represented an embarrassment for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Moscow continues to view the entire Kherson region as part of Russia, according to a Kremlin spokesperson, who adds that the Kremlin doesn't regret holding festivities just over a month ago to celebrate the illegal annexation of Kherson and 3 other occupied or partially occupied regions of Ukraine. In sports, the Bahamas Basketball Federation naming its 11-man squad for the upcoming window in the FIBA International Basketball Federation Basketball World Cup Americas qualifier. The first game in this window will see them play against Panama tonight at 8 p.m. at the Kendall Isaacs Gym. You can read about the final roster in today's Guardian Sports section. The Bahamas is without NBA players, Indiana Pacers guard Savannah Buddy Hield and Charlotte Hornets center forward Kai Jones. They are also without head coach Chris DeMarco on the bench, who is with the Golden State Warriors coaching staff. All 3 are in their season in the NBA and will not be available to travel for the games. They're also missing some NCAA players as well. All those details in today's Guardian Sports section. 3 Bahamas national water polo teams are in Coral Springs, Florida to compete in the Carifta Water Polo Regional Championship. They'll be looking to bring home the gold medal. Competition gets underway today and wraps up with the gold medal matches set for Sunday at the Coral Springs Aquatic Center. The Bahamas will be competing in the 14 and under co-ed, 16 and under, 19 and under boys division. Get more details in today's Guardian Sports section. And from the NFL, the Carolina Panthers getting past their rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, in a rainy game in Thursday night football action, 25-15. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your weather for today, rain bands from Nicole still interacting with mid to upper level trough to the west of the area. That's going to continue to bring periodic bouts of showers and thunderstorms across the islands today, while winds and seas continue to gradually decrease across the country through tonight. There's still a moderate threat for water spout activity. Beachgoers should still stay out of the water along Atlantic exposures due to the presence of high seas, rough surf, and dangerous rip currents. For today, your forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas, calling for variably cloudy and occasionally cloudy periods, hot and humid, with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms through tonight. Showers may be locally heavy and thunderstorms strong to severe at times. For boaters, a smallcraft advisory is in effect for Atlantic exposures. Expect gusty winds and higher seas, in or near heavy showers and thunderstorms. Wind south to southwest at 10 to 15 knots, occasionally falling light and variable at times. Seas 2 to 4 feet near shore and in sheltered areas, but building to 7 to 10 feet along Atlantic exposures in receding northeasterly swells. For the southeast Bahamas, partly sunny and very warm today with isolated showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms, becoming fair to partly cloudy, warm, and humid, with an increasing chance of showers and thunderstorms expected tonight. A smallcraft caution's in effect. Winds east-southeast to south-southeast at 10 to 15 knots. Seas 4 to 7 feet in moderate northeasterly swells. 79 degrees under partly cloudy skies right now in Nassau. Look for highs getting up to around 89 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to around 75 Fahrenheit, 24 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook and look at the tropics coming up after traffic in just a bit.
Wake up, it's a new day.
You're listening to Morning Blend. When we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on your home for fresh news and smart talk all day. Guardian Radio 96.9.
It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
I used to think of the bank as my personal ATM machine. If I wanted a new car, new furniture, a weekend trip to Miami, no problem. Just max out the credit card or top up my loan. I was a big baller until I realized that 75% of my salary was going to pay back all those loans. Fidelity's personal financial coaching was the best solution. Fidelity gave me a plan with a debt consolidation loan that has a built-in savings that pays 5% interest. I now only have one low monthly payment, plus money in my pocket. Give Fidelity Bank a call at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit any of Fidelity's locations or visit a website at fidelitygroup.com.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope selection and car body fasteners, too. Special orders are welcome. It's your #1 fastener store. Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Streets. Call 326-1976.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Wherever you're headed, the Custom Computers Know-How team is standing by to help guide you in the East and the West. We now have 2 convenient locations on Patton Street in Palmdale and our newest store in the Caves Village Shopping Plaza through the Blake Road entrance. Discover the latest products by top international brands and the knowledge you need to unleash tomorrow's technology today. Drop by Custom Computers out east or out west. We're open Saturdays from 10 till 4.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of the new way. You know that it's the start of the end up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
And welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at MorningBlend969 or Facebook.com/MorningBlend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 422-4796. Remember, standard text rates apply. Hi, once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Joining me now, Stephen Hanna. Good morning, Stephen Hanna. Great to have you with us.
Morning.
Hope all is well.
You know, holding firm. What do you think they're going to do with all this property that was acquired by FTX?
We'll talk about that a little bit later. Coming up this morning, though, we're going to, in our interview, we're going to be talking with Dr. Gregory Pinto about cervical cancer. The last time he was here, he mentioned it. We were talking about something else, but it came up, and we said we had to do a show on this. And it is a largely preventable cancer, but so many people are dying from this, and there's a role for women and men to play in preventing the spread of the virus that causes cervical cancer. We're going to get into that this morning. And then later in Morning Blend Business, it's our Safe and Sound series. We are talking about emergency crisis disaster management, from readiness to response and recovery, especially after what we saw this week with Nicole, and knowing that the hurricane season's coming to an end, but only a few months again away, as time is just flying by. So a lot to get to on this Friday, but let's begin with what else is in the news. In the news, Stephen mentioned FTX. We'll get to that in a bit. But yesterday, officials doing the assessments after Nicole. And, we've seen the pictures. There was indeed flooding, but by yesterday, a lot of that flood water had begun to recede. And acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper declaring that Abaco and Grand Bahama sustained minimal damage despite direct hits or landfall from Nicole, in Abaco as a tropical storm and Grand Bahama as a hurricane. So our Jasper Ward on those assessment tours yesterday in Abaco, noting that there was partial flooding at the Leonard M. Thompson International Airport in Marsh Harbor. And, there were pockets of water here and there. What was most shocking, apparently, was that, or is it shocking? Maybe it's not shocking, but what was apparent was that there was still a lot of damage from Dorian, and a lot of buildings remain unrepaired or in a state of disrepair since Dorian 3 years ago. Chester Cooper acknowledging this himself, saying Abaco is in need of infrastructural upgrades. He says there hasn't been enough investment in Abaco's infrastructure since Hurricane Dorian ravaged the island in 2019. And he says, quote, in addition to the port, there is an ever-pressing need for more housing. We still have some government employees, civil servants who are living in the trailers nearby the Marsh Harbor government complex. And Jasper Ward talking to a lot of the residents there about all of this. Although everyone's breathing a sigh of relief, but again, the challenges remain for the island. And we've been hearing that about Grand Bahama as well. The tarp is still up on a lot of homes.
I like how you pretend as though there aren't people in New Providence from Matthew.
Me?
Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, it's not a shock that they would have tarp on their house from Dorian when I know prior to that, there are persons in the capital who still have tarp on their house from that last severe storm.
And Grand Bahama people will tell you from before Dorian.
From Floyd.
Many of the other from many of the other storms, people were still in states like this. So,
and all that stuff is indicative of something else, like in terms of the state of not just living, in the economy of a person's ability to progress and move forward.
Yeah. All right, so that's happening. Now, there's another very odd story. The officials who went, government officials, many of them elected officials, decided to take a tour of the farm shantytown. Okay, so under the headline, Up Close in an Abaco Shantytown, our Jasper Ward again writing about this. The farm shantytown is much larger than it was shortly after Hurricane Dorian, which we've heard. The scars left by the horrific Category 5 storm are not present. The community, which officials estimate grew from 50 acres to about 200 acres in the last 3 years, is divided by a long stretch of unpaved road with deep potholes. Some of the homes are easily visible from the road, while others are tucked away in thick bushes. Some of the homes are easily visible. I read that. Yeah, okay. The shantytown features a restaurant, though you wouldn't know it.
Does it say you wouldn't know it?
Yeah, I don't know why, but but maybe it doesn't look like a restaurant. Perhaps.
No,
perhaps.
It doesn't have the the little app QR code to scan to get your
or
food
at
delivered.
least the neon sign. Do they still do neon around here? It and other businesses are housed in a makeshift wooden structure, or many makeshift wooden structures. Most of the homes appear to be built using concrete. Yesterday, Nassau-based officials on the island to assess Hurricane Nicole's impact were able to see those structures up close. Central and South Abaco MP John Pinder estimated that there are more than 160 structures in the farm. During the tour, led by Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper, he said, quote, "It's a community that needs attention. We need to make sure there is an even playing field for all residents in Abaco in terms of building and having the proper permits and having the paperwork established and making sure we have the proper sanitization infrastructure put in place so it does not compromise our well fields that supply the water for Abaco. Our well fields start very shallow in the ground and they extend through all of Abaco. If it's compromised in one area, it will compromise the water for all of Abaco." Pinder said the government is still quantifying the total number of structures in the community. Officials did not tour the entire shantytown, and residents did not speak to reporters. Some of them came out of their homes and stared at the government vehicles as they passed.
I mean, you wouldn't?
Boy, okay. Others peeked from behind bushes. Some children continued to play in the yards, apparently oblivious to the presence of the officials. This is just bizarre, serious situation here. Minister of National Security, Wayne Monroe. I mean, it's like they're touring a whole other country. That's what it sounds like to me. It's like,
I mean,
look at this.
No,
look at that over
I
there.
don't think so because I feel like Dwight, if you go inside any community in this country where there are children and suddenly,
no, I'm not talking about that.
The cabinet was there.
I'm just talking about just the feel of this whole thing, right? Because some people have been acting like this isn't a problem, right? This is now. Let's go now. Let's use this opportunity to go and look at it. What we've been talking about for all these years.
I mean, they were there.
Who? Some of these people have never been there.
No, I'm saying they were. Right, I'm saying that they were on Abaco, and so they said,
yeah.
While we're here,
okay.
Since because I'm sure that
because we hear people talking about this thing.
I'm
let's
sure
go
both
experience
MPs
it.
Are like you've clearly never been at a family island with the MP before. Like they'll be like, oh, by the way, come check this out right quick.
Yeah. Okay. National Security Minister Wayne Monroe, who was present on the tour, said the government is considering whether to increase the presence of law enforcement in such communities. What is going on?
Because that's his authority. If you ask him a question, that's what he's going to say.
He said, quote, the matter is actively being considered with regard to how we address people who have illegally built. It's being considered. Who may have illegally occupied government property. Because if we tell one set of people that we can't do it, then we definitely can't let another set of people do it. Okay. He went on to say, quote, so that is actively being considered across Abaco, Grand Bahama, Andros, Eleuthera, and New Providence. Monroe described the matter as a national security concern. He said people who break the law to build homes illegally, quote, display themselves as lawless. Lawlessness is something that can be problematic. Well, really? That's a novel theory. Oh, my God. We should consider doing something about it. He said, quote, Bahamian... No, I'm saying that.
Okay.
He said, quote, Bahamian people who have a legitimate expectation that everyone will be treated equally, it's government's job to ensure that that expectation is respected. Okay, madness. This is complete madness. This is madness. Okay.
I don't know. Like, listen, Dwight. Worse things have been said in response to specifically the shanty towns inside Abaco. Okay.
Let's get your reaction to it, folks. It's like they're just hearing about it for the first time. Hey, yeah, I'm curious. Let's go and see.
I don't know if that's what happened.
Yeah. With those stupid comments about considered, we were strongly considering it. Lawlessness can be problematic. Yeah, you just realized that. Okay, we are jokey. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. Now, I'm not too sure. Is the farm the one that's the private land?
Right. And see, that's
the one?
I don't know. But what I was going to say is, even with him saying that, he could mean it with all full intention. But the problem is, these things are very complicated. Right? Once you start getting legal stuff involved, because now it's like, sometimes you're like, oh, does this person have the right to be here? And the person who owns the land is fully aware that they're there. They're accepting rent from the people, as is the case with several shanty towns in New Providence, where the owners are the ones collecting rent. And so, like, the persons who are on the shanty in the shanty town who are residents there, as far as they're concerned, they paying rent.
They know fully well that
Dwight,
this
you can't.
is problematic.
I mean, no, but I'm saying things being problematic is not the same thing as you thinking something is illegal. Because of course, if I'm poor, I'm going to be like, yeah, people just don't like poor people. I didn't realize that to the extent in which my poverty made me vulnerable to exploitation by persons who are landowners. You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, I think there's a lot. There's something has to be done. Even the whole thing with the restaurant. That restaurant clearly, then, I highly doubt they're not paying their business license.
You highly what?
I highly doubt they're paying their business license.
Oh, okay. You said not.
Right. I highly doubt that they are.
That they are paying a business license.
Right. I highly doubt that there is any NIB contributions coming from that restaurant. I doubt it. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. And with all these different things, those are...
As it says, you couldn't tell it's a restaurant.
That doesn't mean that they're not sending an NIB. But maybe they're not. Perhaps they're not. And all these things... And here's the thing, Dwight. I remember being on this show when the mud caught on fire before Dorian with several then cabinet ministers. And I said, well, isn't this a loss of income for the government? And they laughed at me, right here inside this room. They were sitting right here. The one was here, one was there. All right. So, to the extent at which I find this to be jokey, it's not as jokey as some other persons have taken it. Now, with that said, I don't expect much to happen.
What was jokey in the past to some, at this point, is the time for joking has long gone.
No, I don't think it's right, because I don't think it's a joke. We need to deal with it.
Some of these comments could only be seen as laughable.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's because I know that whenever somebody is like, okay, let's take this person off of this property, there's like 30 different steps that have to happen. Right?
Yeah.
I'd like.
It wouldn't be if you did something today. I can tell you that. It'll be one step and you're out of there.
But that's the thing. It's because we don't have the blanket of having a land-owning patron to cloak us.
That's in this instance, but we know many others on Crown land where that.
No, but that's the thing. Even with that, the Crown land it isn't like these persons are living on Crown land that wasn't given to or like leased to a Bahamian. A Bahamian is leased this Crown land, so they're still underneath that cloak.
No,
I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's it. That's reality, but it's not. It's only as difficult as you want it to be.
No, but I'm saying
only as difficult as you want it to be. You leased this land to farm. What are you doing with 400 homes on it?
The stories I could tell you about what people do with Crown land that is inappropriate, with and without illegal shanty
let's not muddy the water, though.
I'm just saying.
This has been going on.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that something needs to be done with it because that's not what the land was given to you for.
Yeah.
But clearly, at some point, every time that somebody says, okay, we gave you this land to build a church on, why is there a giant convenience store? Why is there a strip mall here? We gave you this land to farm on. Why are there 3-story houses on it? We gave you this land for this and that or whatever. That all that needs to stop. But every time you go to stop it, there's somebody who is given the land who has some level of power or
connections. That's
and then
exactly
you
what
can't
it is.
stop them. So
it's the same people who are making silly comments who are doing that. And we know this. Maybe not the identical people, but it's people in those positions. And that's been the case for decades.
Right. And so my plea would be to deal with those people. Those people need to
deal with everybody. Let's deal with everybody.
No, I'm saying once you throw those people in jail, everything else will start to fall into place.
Let's hear what you have to say, folks. Callers, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, it is not you, Dwight, along with you and Steve and Dwight.
Hi, good morning.
We need justice, law, and order in this country. Let me say something. The Deputy Prime Minister and Wayne Monroe are talking foolishness. Because when you're going to say that the people build illegal, number one, speak of the property. He doesn't own any property. Somebody needs to go to jail. People like the Deputy Prime Minister and Wayne Monroe and those, they shouldn't be leading us because they jive and that is stupidity what they're allowing for people who has the power to do something about their mature situation. It makes people angry just to hear them speak of situation as such. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Let's take another call.
I don't have an issue with people being angry. I just want them to be angry at the right thing.
Well, it's a lot of things to be angry about.
Right.
A lot of people to be angry with.
But not everything is going to be productive anger.
All right. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Glenn, and good morning to your guest.
Hi. Good morning.
You think we are at a point, or we have already been at a point where governments, particularly the present one, don't want to do nothing or can't do nothing. I know the previous one, Prime Minister said, all illegals get out of my country. He said that once and never heard from him since saying anything about that. But are we at a stage where we need to really consider the fact that governments cannot deal with this situation?
They say they are going to.
But they
say
cannot.
that. I don't know.
You see, let's not mix it up. They cannot deal with this particularly Haitian illegal immigration problem.
What would be the reason why they wouldn't be able to do it?
Because they're nested in it. They are invested in it. Your guest is talking about regularizing and receiving taxes and whatnot. That's a joke. The people who have been connected to this, because Haitians were here before Bahamians. I don't know if you want to just come to grips with that fact. No, I'm not supporting them, but I'm just saying many of them feel as though they have a right to be here, and being here for so long, you allow them to be here. But the guy who cleans my yard, he pays $3,000 a year. That's expensive, just to be here. So these people are trying to find a way of living, but the government cannot deal with it, and they will never deal with it. So we need to come to grips with that and move on with your personal life. But I'd like to call back later when you're talking about FTX.
Okay, give us a couple minutes. Thank you. Let's take another call, and then we'll get to your text messages. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Strachan. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was trying to get in a long time. I heard what you said, what Mr. Wayne Monroe said. I agree with what the first caller said. We really don't need these people to be leading us because they ain't making no sense. We just staying right where we are. We're not doing anything, and the government can't do anything. All they have to do is find out who the people getting the land from, and go after the Bahamian people. We're really in trouble in this country.
It seems so. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. Let's go to your text messages and read your messages here. Somebody says here, why are we still on this topic with illegal migrants? What is the government going to do? Why do we play so much in this country? Destroy those homes and send them back home? Well,
okay, so here's the problem. We're not talking about illegal migrants. We're talking about illegal structures.
And there are some,
no, but
likely,
I'm saying, but
some
that's
undocumented
like saying,
migrants in
Dwight,
those.
Yeah, but that's the same thing like saying we're talking about the people with green shirts on the radio right now. No, some people in this room have on a green shirt, but not everybody. So it's like what we're talking about are people on the radio. Like if we're talking about shanty towns, then we're talking about shanty towns. Now, some of those persons are here without any paperwork. Yes. But that's not the case with everybody. Mm-hmm. And so it's like that is a level of muddy in the water because now what's going to happen is people are going to say, oh, well, we need immigration to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, immigration comes in and says, everybody that we met when we went there had some form of paperwork and is legally allowed to remain in the country. But you still have the shanty town. Mm-hmm. So let's focus on what needs to be focused on, right? And not get dissuaded by our personal fears and concerns, well, not concerns, our personal fears and prejudices.
And this will go back to what the Deputy Prime Minister was saying, right? The housing crisis there. So if that is the case, most of the people there are documented. If that is the case, then where are they going to go after you demolish their illegal structure?
But the way to bring all the stories full circle, if we have persons in Grand Bahama who still have tarp on their roof, all right? We know that there's a housing crisis throughout the entire country. Mm-hmm. People cannot afford to rebuild, let alone move. So the standard of living keeps on reducing and reducing because that's the only thing available, right? It is cheap. Honestly, it is cheaper to live in a shanty town than it is if you know how to build a house than it is to live anywhere else because you're renting a plot of land, sometimes for $30 a week, or whatever it might be, right? Which is going to be cheaper than you renting for $800 to $1,000 a month. And so, like, at the end of the day, it's like we have to address the housing crisis more so than anything else.
But that's a big issue, a long-term challenge. Right. It's going to take a long time.
And these things have to be regulated because they lead to other things. And, like, we we spent the past 2 months talking about how we don't want the price of fuel to go up, the price of food to go up, the price of medicine to go up. The government needs revenue. There's revenue being lost in these places because the persons aren't paying.
All right, but when you're saying these things, you sound like you're justifying them.
No, I'm not justifying it. I'm saying that these things, that restaurant that exists there, can exist either there or elsewhere if it was regularized, if it was legal, if it was paying all of its taxes, and that would be additional funds going to the government. I'm saying we're still losing out if we do nothing. Something must be done. I'm not defending it. I'm saying that that's literally money on the ground if you want to look at it in just in terms of dollars and cents.
I think everybody gets that.
No, I don't think everybody
really?
gets that.
Okay. Well, anyway, all right. Some more of the text messages. Now that Wayne Wonder and crew have seen what Bahamians have been fussing about for years, what will they do? Well, he realizes it's problematic. At least he realizes that. This person says here,
sometimes crime is problematic. Let's be very clear. Sometimes crime is okay.
Let me get the quote right. Hold up. Lawlessness is something that can be problematic.
Right. Not all the time. And that's a fair statement.
People who break the law to build homes illegally display themselves as lawless. Lawlessness is something that can be problematic.
Now, so here's the problem. I actually disagree with the second half of his statement.
Lawlessness?
No. The people who break the law to build a home is like they display themselves to be lawless. Like, I don't know if that's a display of lawlessness.
See, this is the same. This is exactly what I just said about you a few seconds ago. You sound like you're sanctioning.
I'm not sanctioning anything. I'm saying that it's at the bottom of the Maslow hierarchy of needs.
No. You're saying whether it's just or right, but it is against the law, which is what lawlessness is, right? So whether you should have the right to a home or whatever it takes.
I want you to know everything that we do every day is against the law.
I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, let me continue with the text messages. Don't take us down this road.
We're all in contravention of some law.
We're going deep down a muddy, mucky road, deep into...
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you know being a vagabond is a crime? Running after somebody with a hanger in the road is a crime?
That sounds like crimes to me, yes.
Yeah,
all of them sound...
So, like,
yeah.
Many a parent would be in jail.
As they should. Anyway, can you please play Jokey Leaders because it well describes this country? Sure.
I'm beginning to think that the person who wrote that song is the one who texts it every day to make sure that this song gets spins. Because
I guarantee you, it's thousands of other people doing it.
I guess.
And this person says, who cares if the land is private? The structures are illegally built.
See, and once again, you can't have it both ways, guys, because on one hand, literally, I've listened to this radio station, callers call in and persons call in and say, you can't tell business owners what to charge for stuff. But then you turn around and say, you can tell a person who owns a property what they can bill on the property. Like, which way do you want it? Right? Do you want it to be a free fall where once I have ownership of this thing, I can do whatever I want?
And that's been part of the problem, right? Because some of the structures sometimes meet the code, the building code.
Well, of course, because these are the persons who build everything else.
You got a whole town here in an area that's not zoned for it. But the buildings do meet the code.
The buildings meet the code, but there's no running water or the water. Well,
that doesn't sound like it meets code then.
No, but I'm saying, I'm talking about like, is it connected to city water or is it just well water? Are there like you don't want
plenty big homes not connected to.
Then do you want a septic tank inside a marsh area?
Sounds like the best place to put it.
No, that's the worst place to put it.
That's a joke. This text here. Morning, guys. About the farm, it doesn't matter if they are paying rent. Who gives out government building permits for structures? That's the first thing. Go from there. Well, that's the same thing we were talking about just now, right? If the government and ministers cannot do their job by enforcing the law in Abaco by removing the shanty towns, they should resign immediately. The shantytown in Abaco is a clear-cut situation. Enforce the law by charging, fining, and locking up the landowners who break the law by allowing the building of illegal structures. Then arrange for immediate demolition of all structures. As we said, it is complicated in many ways. That can't.
I want you to know
it won't be as simple there, but the Crown Land ones seem to be a little more. You would think an easier issue to solve.
It is harder. Believe it or not.
You signed a lease for a certain thing, and you're allowing complete nonsense to happen there. You said you're going to have a couple structures for people who work the farm, but now you've got a whole...
Dwight, but that's not even how it works. The lease literally says what size of a wooden temporary structure you are allowed to put on the property. It is that is the terms of your lease agreement. This is not a question of like whether or not oh, how do we read that? When it says this, can it be that? No. It says, I think it's 600 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Wooden temporary structure. You're allowed to have it to either house tools or for anybody who needs to stay there overnight. That's it. The persons are abusing that and saying, well, we're going to build several 600. Nope, that's not what the terms of the lease agreement say. But clearly, legally, there is an issue where every time somebody takes this to court or you say, well, this person is in breach of their lease, it never goes anywhere.
Yeah.
And to that person who said, oh, we'll just bulldoze them. Dwight, if you remember in 2014, were they not bulldozing every week, going to bulldoze in Joe Farrington Road and then stopping?
It's been happening a lot.
Right? Because legally they could. There was some legal injunction, or like not even an injunction. There was some legal impediment as to why they could not do it.
All right, let's get through these and then take these calls. We're going to take a break because the person says, I don't agree with the shantytown problem, but is this problem really government's inability to provide housing? The other real problem is government's inability to enforce building code laws. The government doesn't seem like they want to solve this issue. Well, we're hearing people give their theories as to why they seem to be incapable of stopping it. This one says exactly, I read the last texter, if I don't have a building permit, if it's built to code or not, it should be torn down. This is not a complicated problem. The reason why the shantytown problem continues is because most of the land on which shantytowns exist are government crown land. Prove me wrong. And this one says the government did not regulate anything after the storm. That's why it's happening in Abaco again after the storm. They were just saying, out of sight, out of mind, boy. All right, let's take these calls, and then we got to take a break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Great. I just have one or two questions. So the messaging that's being sent is, if once you purchase property, and you just build on it, anything on it, without worrying about getting in a permit or whatever. Because that seems the messaging I'm seeing coming from Abaco and a lot of these shanty towns. Once it's not on crown line and you purchase the property, you can build on it. Is that the correct messaging I'm getting? That's what it appears to be. And secondly, as a permit, if I come into a country, do I have to have someone to pay my permit, or is it legal to pay my own permit? I thought you're supposed to have someone sponsor you when you come into the country.
Yeah.
And lastly, does the housing crisis only affect persons of a certain class?
No.
I mean, because I know of a lot of persons who, Bahamians who are renting or living with their cousin, their auntie, their mother, and everybody got them up in one house because they can't afford. They don't want to break the law. Why? So I guess what I'm saying is, if a bunch of Bahamians get together and they just go build indiscriminately on property, can the government also tell them it's okay? And once enough Bahamians get together, can we also do that as well?
Yeah.
Once we get a big number and go build,
yes, you could.
Can they turn a blind eye to that as well?
I don't think they'll turn a blind eye.
They won't turn a blind eye.
They won't turn a blind eye.
But I mean, if a large enough number of people do anything, you'll get away with it.
If you follow the same methodology, what we've been seeing for decades from the farm and these other places, once you get a larger number of groups, they seem to ignore it. That's what I'm saying.
It's not that they're ignoring them.
But that's what I'm seeing. And the last point I want to make is I saw in Bean them doing the same thing and they got run off the property. But everybody trying to blind eye to what's going on at the farm. But I'll hang up and listen.
It's not
yeah,
that they're
your questions
them.
are valid, right? You know, but
it's not that they ignore them. It's that when you have a large enough group, you start to treat the group differently. So it's like you start looking at it and saying, okay, how do we address this without this becoming an issue? All right?
It wouldn't even be allowed to get large.
No.
And depending on where you're doing it.
It's always depending on where you're doing it, right? And so
thing.
What we have here is that there's somebody who is 100% Bahamian with no shadow of a doubt. In the words of a misguided messianic figure, an organic Bahamian is profiting from all of these places. Right? That is the true and real issue. If you think that somebody is selling your birthright, that is the person who is selling your birthright.
Yeah.
When that person is dealt with, then all these things will start to fall in line. But as long as that is happening, that's the cloak that they're under. So if you feel like you could get 50 people and just start building on a random piece of property, it won't work the same way because you're not being cloaked by the person that is cloaking, in the words of the good minister, this problematic lawlessness.
Every last one of y'all will be crammed together in a jail cell.
But you know what I do encourage you to do?
Very
Go
soon.
find one of these unscrupulous behemoths and hide in the shadow of their wings. Why not, Dwight?
No.
I'm saying,
No,
listen,
no.
there are many issues that are not being addressed, and they need to be addressed.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, FTX. This is quite a mess, isn't it? We'll get, we'll read it. I don't know if I understand any of it, but
that's why I'm here, Dwight.
Yeah,
That's why
I don't know if I want to understand it, but anyway, this is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
What a bunch of clowns. They're joking and they're jiving, they're messing around. We got some jokey leaders. What a bunch of clowns. Hey! What, man? They jokey. Hey, what do you do now? Nuts! Come on. When I say a three-ring circus, that's how them clowns just be. Round your
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
It's the most rewarding time of the year. Come down to RBC. Get a loan to buy whatever. RBC makes it better. Get a loan and don't pay till New Year.
Make Christmas what you want it to be with a personal loan from RBC. Apply at rbc.com/Caribbean/loan and don't pay till February 2023. Conditions apply.
Get a loan and don't pay till New Year. Come down to RBC.
It's time for your first look at traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. This Christmas, apply for an RBC personal loan at rbc.com/Caribbean/loan. In your real-time traffic this morning, we are seeing the heavy traffic as usual on Mila Butler Highway from the Fire Trail roundabout all the way up to the Tonic Williams Darling roundabout. And traffic is building on Fire Trail eastbound to that roundabout as well. And Glassman Road is also busy for you just north of the Fire Trail intersection on the way to JFK Drive in the northbound lane. Elsewhere, we're seeing building traffic on Carmichael Road westbound to Coral Harbor Road, Carmichael near the southern end of Milo Butler Highway, that's eastbound, and near Faith Avenue, and Carmichael eastbound near Blue Hill Road, also looking busy for you. Cowpen Road near Faith Avenue, also heavy traffic there, eastbound to that junction. Blue Hill Road is busy just north of Soldier on the way to Independence Drive. And in Independence Drive, seeing building traffic in both directions, but especially westbound at this hour to the roundabout with Blue Hill Road. Pockets along Soldier, especially near Windsor Place. And Marathon Road looking busy for you just north of Robinson Road on the way to Wolf Road, and pockets along Robinson, especially between Soldier and Old Trail, and Eastern Road just east of Fox Hill to about Johnson Road. Heavy traffic there westbound this morning. That's what we're looking at so far. That's your first look at weather traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. Get a loan with RBC and don't pay until February 2023. It's time for another check of your weather for this morning. We've got rain bands from Nicole interacting with a mid to upper level trough to the west of the islands. That's going to create periodic bouts of moderate to heavy showers and thunderstorms across the islands today, while winds and seas continue to gradually decrease through tonight. For the northwest and central Bahamas, look for variably cloudy and occasionally cloudy periods, hot and humid with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms through tonight. Showers may be locally heavy and thunderstorms strong to severe at times. Small craft advisory in effect for Atlantic exposures. Expect gusty winds and higher seas in or near heavy showers and thunderstorms. For the southeast Bahamas, partly sunny and very warm, with isolated showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms today, becoming fair to partly cloudy, warm, and humid with increasing showers and thunderstorms expected tonight. Small craft caution in effect. Temperatures getting up to around 89 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 75 Fahrenheit, 24 Celsius. In your extended outlook, the potential for severe weather will persist into Saturday as the trough continues to trigger enhanced shower and thunderstorm activity from lingering moisture associated with Nicole. Expect a vast improvement in maritime and weather conditions by Sunday as a dry air mass filters southwards across the islands ahead of a weakening frontal boundary over Florida. So for tomorrow, Saturday, variably cloudy, hot and muggy with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. Sunday, partly sunny, hot and humid with lingering showers and thunderstorms. That's your Morning Blend weather check. We'll be back with more Morning Blend after these messages here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
If you were exposed to COVID-19, have symptoms, or traveled recently, get tested so that you can have peace of mind about your status. Just visit one of our convenient locations on New Providence at the University of the Bahamas or Golden Gates Plaza, weekdays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Eleuthera at the Three Island Dock, Mondays through Thursdays 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Fridays and Saturdays 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sundays 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Exuma at the Regatta Park, weekdays 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Saturdays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sundays 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. On Abaco at Maxwell Food Store, Mondays through Saturdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The COVID-19 test results will be ready in 15 minutes, and the tests are free.
This message is brought to you by PAHO WHO and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Ready to save? You can put $100 into the CFAL Savings Express Plan and make sure your money keeps growing. Earn interest on your savings while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 into our mutual funds and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-786-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
What if I told you that the future is here? That is not some magical door we walk through, but a place we create. It's home. The place where you can download a 2-hour movie in seconds and stay connected to loved ones even when traveling far from home. Where internet moves at lightning speeds, smoother and more reliable than anything you've ever seen. This future-proof technology can take you to worlds that you can only imagine. The future is here. The future is home. The future is Alive Fiber.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
So am I'm living alone now. I was wrong, so were you. What will you do? Are you glad to be free? Are you feeling lost, just like me, longing for company? Oh, sad, sad. You know
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strong with Stephen Hanna.
I just feel like it'd be a better song. But okay, fine.
It's Sam. It's about Sam. Sam Bankman-Fried having a bad day, having a bad week, having not a good time.
Sam is such a nice name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So you've heard about it. Everyone's talking about it globally. Everybody's talking about it. FTX's assets frozen. The Securities Commission also appointing a liquidator now. Chester Robards writing about it as FTX Digital Markets Chief Sam Bankman-Fried rang out a mea culpa chorus peppered with expletives to his followers. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Clients and investors sent it out to his followers, clients and investors through Twitter yesterday. While that was happening, the Securities Commission of the Bahamas froze his company's assets and appointed a provisional liquidator for the embattled FTX, now making international headlines. The SEB, releasing a statement late yesterday, explained that it became aware of public statements suggesting that the Bahamas headquartered FTX mishandled client assets and mismanaged and or transferred assets to Alameda Research, which is FTX's supposed sister company in the United States, and said any of those actions would have been in contravention of normal governance without the consent of the company's clients and a potentially unlawful move. According to the SEB, Brian Sims, KC of Lennox Payton, was appointed as provisional liquidator for FTX Digital Markets Limited. In the statement, it said, quote, "Today, the Securities Commission of the Bahamas took action to freeze assets of FTX Digital Markets and related parties. The commission also suspended the registration and applied to the Supreme Court of the Bahamas for the appointment of a provisional liquidator of FTX Digital Markets Limited, known as FDM. The statement says, additionally, the powers of the directors of FDM have been suspended, and no assets of FDM, client assets, or trust assets held by FDM can be transferred, assigned, or otherwise dealt with without the written approval of the provisional liquidator. FTX's Vice President of Communications and Corporate Social Responsibility, Valdez Russell, telling Guardian Business yesterday that the Securities Commission, the SEB, was swift in demonstrating its importance as a regulator in the digital asset space and in maintaining the integrity and jurisdictional reputation of the Bahamas. Well, okay, others will judge that, but sure. And apparently he went on to say, quote, as FTX strives to do right for customers, investors, and employees, the involvement of a provisional liquidator will prove helpful in a process that facilitates the requisite due diligence that will contribute to a better future for digital assets in a global landscape. Now, the world has been waiting to understand how a sector once described, and in some cases still described, as the Wild West would look in a regulated jurisdiction. The Digital Assets and Registered Exchanges,
the
DARE
answer is
Act.
it wouldn't. The answer is it wouldn't.
The DARE Act was built for just for a week like this one that FTX is having, apparently, with FTX in a liquidity crisis and seeking funding to pay clients who have decided to cash out of the exchange to the tune of billions of dollars. The company's regulator, the SEB, now has to ensure through a liquidator that the process happens in a controlled and legal manner. That statement from the SEB explained that the Securities Commission has been proactively dealing with the FTX debacle since news began to break on the company's liquidity issues. On of it in today's NASA Guardian, including the statement from Sam Bankman-Fried on Twitter. And So let's get your quick reaction to this. We can't spend too much time on this, and we need to move on. But let's get your quick reaction. 323-6232. 325-4316. 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. We've got a picture in the NASA Guardian of all those people who were there when they were breaking the ground on the FTX headquarters, and including cabinet ministers and, oh boy.
You know, Dwight, anyway, see, once again, I feel like a lot of times we don't listen to the boring stuff, and that's how come we get caught up in the sensational. What is cryptocurrency? Can you explain it?
No, I can't. And we just had guests on yesterday.
And so
every week we've had somebody on.
That.
And
so
just cryptocurrency, none of it.
I'm going to tell you exactly what the Securities Commission of the Bahamas tells you. If you don't understand it, do not invest in it.
Yeah.
All right? You need to understand it. And then you can say, oh, but then they didn't understand the matrix and blah, 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 whatever, right? It doesn't matter. It is better to lose a couple than to lose all when you invest in stuff that you don't understand. If you do not understand how it works, step back until you fully understand it. Whether that's Bitcoin, whether that's a loom, whether somebody's like, if you give me some money, I give you 3 pineapples. No. Understand what it is that you are investing in before you get involved with it.
Now, the issue is here, what did the Bahamas get itself into by having a company like this?
Oh, I meant that on all levels.
Yeah.
I meant not just as individuals. I meant that as in totality, whether it is the government, whether it is the Bahamian individual, whether it's Dwight, whether it's Stephen, whether it's all of us. Before we jump into bed and say, this sounds great, you're going to give me how much money is, we need to fully understand what we're getting involved
I just want you to look at the picture on page 3 there.
Which page 3? In the big section?
Yeah. And just look at that. Like, would you just, people were saying it at the time when this is the groundbreaking for the FTX headquarters. But the prime minister seated next to that person there in shorts and tennis shoes and socks. You see that? Would you invest billions of dollars? Anyway.
Because people assume that is
that's how a billionaire investor would look. Yeah. Great. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning to you, Dwight. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Hi. Good morning.
Yeah. Really, Dwight, I mean, we need to dedicate some time, even more than what you've done so far, on exactly what it is in steps. But just use an example, the liquidator. The liquidator basically only have control of FTX Digital Markets Limited, but FTX itself is a conglomerate of companies almost beginning to be based in Antigua. The fact that digital currency, just like Stephen just said, exists everywhere and nowhere, and the server is not based here in the Bahamas, and as such, trades and taking assets off and other things are still going on that particular server. So essentially, you will see it's a few $1 million versus the losses being a few $1 billion. And so these are the defects of their bill, or what we're attempting to do is we are trying to regulate a digital space with analog laws. And if we are to continue in this new digital-based reality, because data, everything that we talk about digital assets is data, and data doesn't exist the way we think it does. And so we have to rethink what we have been doing and begin to understand exactly what it is that we are trying to manage.
Yeah.
So for me, the seizure thing is good for the fact that he's exercising that point, but the laws itself should address all of the things. It can't retroactively do it, but it should have addressed all of the things that we see coming. They kind of touched on it when they did the gaming bill. It was like a hit and go, but it's like so much that we don't know, and so much people are talking about opinion. Because even when you talk about the back structure, infrastructure about it, you have people in the foreground screaming about cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
When we talk about the structure.
Now, our guest yesterday said that the Bahamians have not been able to invest directly into this as yet. Is that right?
No, not directly, but they have invested indirectly.
Indirectly,
and there's claims being made now that withdrawals are being done in or through the Bahamas. But the problem is that we often confuse cryptocurrencies as being digital assets, and that's one of the most biggest mistake there is.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency is a subsect of crypto, because crypto has been around for thousands of years before even technology. And so the problem is that even digital cryptocurrencies, just Google greater fool theory. However, the underlying technology...
Did you say yeah?
Well, as he said before, no.
Yeah, the underlying technologies is what we should be seeking to regulate and control.
Okay.
Because if we move to a data economy, we could double and triple our economy, understanding that once you become a data economy and regulate that properly, all of these things fall under it because these are nothing more than data.
Yeah. Seattle, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I've got some good messages
you never
here.
have a Faustus situation because you're like,
This person says here, SBF's mea culpa statement tells it all. I think it came across as a small child caught doing something wrong and accepting his fate in an appropriate way. Secondly, statements from anyone at FTX now are largely empty. They should refrain from speaking. This one here says, question the Securities Commission acted on Thursday. This thing was unraveling from over the weekend. Clico and City Markets showed us that it doesn't matter what a regulator says after the money was already moved. Was Sam trading? And if he was trading on an exchange license, how would the Securities Commission not know, since this clearly involved movement of client money? Can someone please explain what regulation means here? There's going to be a lot of questions like that. And this one says here, the problem with our regulators is we are mostly after the fact. We are reacting after the U.S. launched an investigation. If we want to be taken seriously in the international financial arena, we need the expertise to detect and investigate such complex matters and not react when a developed country sounds the alarm. Also, employees of the regulators should not be taking photo ops with companies in the industry that they are tasked with regulating. Oh boy. Okay.
I mean, also, in all fairness, sometimes it works vice versa. You'll have large countries, things are happening because of the Panama Papers or something, like different leaks and different whistles coming from different places. So, like, it isn't such a bad thing that somebody else caught it, and then we're like, oh, yeah.
Well,
I'm saying the order of it isn't a bad
almost
thing.
always after the fact here. So we got to go to the news. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio. Stay with us.
I find the days hard to face now. Empty room.
Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Welcome back to Morning Blend here on Guardian Radio 96.9. We're streaming live on GuardianTalkRadio.com and on the Guardian Radio app for smart devices. We're also on your televisions on Cable Bahamas Channel 969 and BTC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at Morning Blend 969 or Facebook.com/Morning Blend 969. Text us 422-4796 on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC. And now at 8:23, time for another check of your weather for today, brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance. We've got rain bands from Nicole interacting with a mid to upper level trough to the west of the area. That's going to continue to bring periodic bouts of moderate to heavy showers and thunderstorms across the islands today, while winds and seas will gradually decrease across the country. There's a moderate risk for waterspout activity, and beachgoers should still stay out of the water along Atlantic exposures due to the presence of high seas, rough surf, and dangerous rip currents. For today, for the Northwest Bahamas and Central Islands, look for variably cloudy with occasionally cloudy periods, hot and humid with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. That'll continue through tonight. Showers may be locally heavy and thunderstorms strong to severe at times. Smoke advisory in effect for Atlantic exposures. For the southeast Bahamas, partly sunny and very warm with isolated showers and the chance of isolated thunderstorms. Becoming fair to partly cloudy, warm and humid with increasing chances of showers and thunderstorms expected today through tonight. Smallcraft caution in effect. Temperatures getting up to around 89 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. Overnight lows getting down to about 75 Fahrenheit, 24 Celsius. In your extended outlook, the potential for severe weather conditions will persist into Saturday as the trough continues to trigger enhanced shower and thunderstorm activity from lingering moisture associated with Nicole. Expect a vast improvement in maritime and weather conditions come Sunday as a dry air mass filters southwards across the Bahamas ahead of a weakening frontal boundary over Florida. So for Saturday, variably cloudy, hot and muggy with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. Sunday, partly sunny, hot and humid with lingering showers and thunderstorms. Besides tropical depression now, Nicole moving over Florida and into Georgia. Tropical cyclone formation not expected through the next 5 days. That's your Morning Blend weather check brought to you by Bahamas First Insurance, still the first and only local insurance company and agency network that lets you buy car and home insurance 100% online. Try it at bahamasfirst.com. And we've got your final look at traffic for this morning, brought to you by RBC. RBC. Get a loan from RBC and don't pay until February 2023. In your real-time traffic, we've got Eastern Road seeing heavy traffic from just east of Fox Hill Road all the way up to Johnson Road, but it's still busy once you get past that area as you head towards Shirley Street and Village Road. So keep that in mind. Bernard Road also looking busy for you. And then pockets along Prince Charles Drive and especially Robinson Road between Soldier and Old Trail on the way to the intersection with Marathon and East-West Highway. Marathon Road also looking busy for you northbound to Wolf Road. And Mackey Street seeing heavy traffic both directions, north and southbound, from just north of Wolf Road as you make your way toward Palmdale. Elsewhere, Independence Drive, heavy traffic both directions, east and westbound, between the East Street and Blue Hill Road roundabouts. Blue Hill Road busy for you just north of Carmichael on the way to that roundabout. And Milo Butler Highway, heavy traffic this morning, well south of Fire Trail, all the way up to Tonic Williams Darling Highway in the northbound lanes. And Gladstone Road also busy for you just north of Fire Trail this morning. Pockets along Carmichael Road, west and eastbound, west near Coral Harbor Road on the way there, and eastbound near the junction with Milo Butler Highway and Faith Avenue. So that's what we're dealing with this morning. That's your real-time traffic and your Morning Blend traffic alert brought to you by RBC. This Christmas, apply for an RBC personal loan at rbc.com/Caribbean/loan.
Breakfast just got better at Wendy's. Introducing the Breakfast Biggie Bag. Enjoy a double sausage muffin with 2 square sausage patties, a freshly cracked egg, and cheese served on a toasted English muffin, a medium waffle fries, and an orange juice for only $5.25, VAT inclusive. And an apple pie for just $1 more.
Say what?
At Wendy's, better breakfast is all day. Offers valid in participating locations. Wendy's, different inside and out.
I just link up with this beautiful young lady, and she say she in love with me. She say even my internet making sense. When she come over, she say my signal strong, my movies ain't glitching, and when she use her computer, everything was smooth. The only problem is, I let her meet me by my boy house that day, and he got that BTC fiber internet speed bump.
Current fiber internet bundle customers now have as much as 3 times the speed. Totally free. Link up with BTC.
Link up.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Oh Sam, Roby Sam, buy down, Roby Sam. You steal my partner, Roby Sam. Oh Sam, you steal my partner, Roby Sam. Oh Sam.
We are back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. We are changing gears this morning. We are going to be talking about cancer and preventing cancer. This morning, we're very pleased to have with us, as always, urologist Dr. Gregory Pinto. Good morning, sir. Good to have you with us.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Thanks again, Dwight and Stephen.
All right, so we've got a lot to talk about, but I know we're going to start off from a conversation we had the last time you were on the show, and you were talking about cervical cancer and how this is a preventable cancer, and there's actions that we can do with our boys and girls to prevent this from causing so much trauma and heartache and pain for so many people. But let's get into it and talk about some of the things you mentioned the last time and get really into it. So cervical cancer, tell us about that and how that's caused.
It's a national tragedy that it happens every single week. As a urologist, I'm part of the collaborative approach treating advanced incurable cervical cancer, which it's the most heartbreaking thing you'll see, particularly because it afflicts so many young women, women in the prime of their life, just got married, have young children, they have the whole life ahead of them. And unfortunately, many cervical cancers present very late, and at incurable state. And it's beyond words to see the tragedy that these women go through. It's a horrible death. It's a long, prolonged, painful death. Many of them will die of metastasis to their bones. They'll basically, after a period of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years where their family go through the emotional turmoil, that their young kids see their mother wither away before their eyes, in and out of hospital. Many of them present, and that's where the urologists are involved with obstruction of their kidneys, where the tumor itself or the nodes of one or both of their kidneys, and they're basically in renal failure. Many of them, because they have metastatic incurable disease, are not a candidate for renal dialysis, and that's why many of them will die of renal failure, which in itself is a horrible, horrible death. But it's preventable. If as a urologist I knew that prostate cancer, 94% of cervical cancers can be prevented by simply getting the HPV vaccine. Mm-hmm. That's basically every case of cervical cancer. It doesn't have to happen. The HPV vaccine is readily available for free through the Ministry of Health. And as I'm always coming here, knowledge is key. If we can give, and not just to young girls, but to boys as well, if we can give the HPV vaccine we usually start at the age 11, 12, 13 to preteens and early teens. If we can give them the HPV vaccine and later, many years later, we give them the booster, we can prevent not just HPV is related to human papilloma virus is related to not just cervical cancer, but even in men, penile cancer. You can get penile cancer, and trust me, you don't want to get penile cancer.
Right. HPV again.
HPV, where we'll have to amputate your male member. Mm-hmm. So use that as a motivation. If you as a male get HPV, in many cases HPV will basically resolve itself. The body will fight it off, and many persons, if they have it, they don't have any symptoms whatsoever. Right. It'll dissipate on its own, but there are those that it'll stay with them, and you can pass it on to your wife. You can pass it on to your partner, and they can develop cervical cancer. You can develop thyroid cancer of the throat, or cancer of the esophagus. But if we can give these HPV vaccines to young boys and young girls, and there's a drive every year, and I even last year I remember the wife of the Prime Minister was also very instrumental in trying to provide the knowledge of the HPV vaccine to the community. We can prevent cervical cancer across the board almost with certainty. I mean, if 94%,
it's crazy.
And we're not doing enough to provide that knowledge. Most parents don't know about it. Teenagers, of course, don't know about it. And if we can provide that information to the community, if we can prevent women from needlessly dying 28 years old, 32 years old, 44, the ages range, when they have their whole life ahead of them, and the tragedy that not only they go through, but their husbands, their parents, their children have to go through, to see them die a horrible death from a very preventable disease.
Yeah.
I hear you saying that. I hear you saying young boys and young girls. Is there a cap on when persons can first take the vaccine?
You start at the age of 11. There is some evidence that it may have a benefit even for persons in their late 20s, but essentially the more sexual partners that you've had, the more possible exposure to HPV that you may have had, the less benefit there's going to be to getting the HPV vaccine. So you want to do it when you're young. And as I said, the motivation is you can prevent cervical cancer for your daughter. You can prevent your son from getting penile cancer. You can prevent your son from getting unknowingly, and in most cases, because men are asymptomatic, unknowingly giving HPV to their wife that lead to the preventable tragedy of them dying of cervical cancer.
So, question, is there like a push of any sort to recommend, I guess, like a full array of tests before persons, like encourage a person, so before you get married, you should probably do all these tests to make sure, or
very much so. And even in terms of counseling, in terms of you want to have a child, obviously you want to do a full gamut of VDRL. You want to make sure you don't have any sexually transmitted disease. Obviously, hepatitis, the various types of hepatitis. You want to make sure that you're HIV negative. That, in many cases, is a routine. It's not a legal mandate, but it's usually a routine even when you're getting married. You want to know what the status is of your partner and going forward.
So is HPV on that list of things, since it leads to these cancers, and there could be a problem down the road?
Yes, the answer is yes. But essentially, we want to be proactive.
Right.
We want to be preventative.
Right.
We don't want it to be reactionary. We want to make sure we don't have to deal with what the consequences of you getting HPV may be and who you have to. We want to make sure that you don't get HPV, that those that you are your sexual partners aren't going to get HPV, that your wife, your husband isn't going to get HPV.
So HPV is only sexually...
it's the number one sexually transmitted disease by far. By far. It's not even close.
Asymptomatic, then it doesn't really...
For most persons, it is asymptomatic, and then the tragedy falls upon a 23-year-old where all of a sudden they're losing weight. They're having severe abdominal pain. And even I'll even get into it in terms of the lack of dignity that you're going to have, because cervical cancer, there's an odor to it.
Yeah.
As a urologist, as a gynecologist, it almost smells like rotting tissue, and just to know that even when you have such a person with advanced cervical cancer in the ward, even for other patients in the ward, it's difficult to tolerate. And imagine you as a young person, your kids are even afraid to come near you because of the terrible of the disease itself.
My Lord.
It's a tragedy on so many levels, and we can prevent it.
So why should we make it mandatory for teenagers to get the HPV vaccine?
Or at least put it on the vaccination card as a recommendation, right?
I mean, it is, but should we make it mandatory?
I would, of course, advocate that it's a democratic society. Obviously, you can't force anyone to do anything, and you can't force any parent to obviously, you would say if you want to go to school, you need to have certain vaccines, and you have to show proof of such. If we can get to that level, and I don't even know if it's necessary, if people really knew the tragedy that they can prevent by getting the HPV vaccine, I think that in itself will be impetus and motivation to get it.
Right.
I mean, let's just talk about men. Their most important organ in there for Bahamian men and Bahamian residents is their manhood. And if you can think of what's the psyche of a man if he just closes his eyes and thinks that he possibly can get cancer, a tumor of his male member, which is going to be the partial amputation just to save his life, or the complete amputation of his male member.
Yeah, my goodness.
And it's such a strong correlation between HPV and penile cancer.
How common is that here?
It's not exceedingly common, but the tragedy is we see men suffering with these lesions on their penis to the point where you might see them years later, eventually coming to see us when it's already been self-amputated. That's the level that they get because of the level of embarrassment that there's actually a tumor, a cancerous lesion on their male member. The last thing they want to do is and I always encourage you, if there's anything abnormal on your examination, and if in the shower you feel there's a lump or bump that shouldn't be there, if you feel anything in terms of your testicles, in terms of your male member, please, in many cases it's something benign, but knowledge is key. If there's something happen, let's treat it when it's early.
Yeah. Now, one of the vaccines, Gardasil, right? It's been how long now? A little over 10 years? 15?
Even more than that? Maybe about 13 years.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I remember when it came out, there was some pushback, some parents who were concerned about this and foolishness about how this might encourage their girls to get sexually active. Are people still talking nonsense like that?
I'm sure you're going to get call-ins right now regarding that, but
it doesn't make sense, though.
It's nonsensical to me. We're talking about 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, young girls and boys who the fact that they're getting an HPV vaccine is not going to encourage them to participate in any illicit activities. All it's going to do is prevent them from getting something later in life or giving it to someone that they love. And that's on a national level. We shouldn't be seeing women dying of cervical cancer. We shouldn't, even though it's not very common, we shouldn't see persons getting other HPV-related cancers, whether it's cancer of the throat or esophageal cancer or even penile cancer. And many of these are presenting very late. Even for women, I encourage them to get a pap smear. If we can pick up cervical cancer early, we can get an excellent cure. But too many women of all ages are presenting with advanced cervical cancer. And I just can't put in the word, the tragedy. I've seen so many heartbreaking things as a surgeon, as a physician, but I think cervical cancer is the worst thing that I've seen.
And the throat cancers that you're talking about, this is through sexual activity as well?
Correct.
Oh, boy.
Correct. So when we understand cancers, and we talked about preventative, obviously there's so many advances in terms of the actual treatment of cancers, which I'll get into. And I'll even speak about prostate cancer. It's an evolving process in terms of our understanding of these cancers, in terms of the genetics that predispose us to getting these cancers, in terms of genetic mutations, in terms of the genetics of the actual tumor itself, and how one person with a certain stage of cancer will be cured for their lifetime, and another one, you think they're cured, and 20 years later, they have recurrence of the cancer. And we were understanding that a lot of that is actual genetics of the tumor. Not every tumor is the same. So when we take out cancers now, including prostate cancer, we have the opportunity to do genetic testing on the tumor itself, and that can determine, even we do biopsies for prostate cancer, that can determine, for example, there are algorithms that are out there that determine, all right, you are cured of prostate cancer, but in the next 20 years, you have an 11% chance of having a recurrence. You have versus someone who may have an 87% chance of having a recurrence, and then those subsets of patients are treated differently in terms of surveillance post-curative prostate cancer treatment. So the light is being shone on many things in terms of particularly the genetics and the link between bacteria and viruses and various cancers, and I'll get into that as well. And even in terms of our understanding of prostate cancer, there's been groundbreaking research in the last 2 years in terms of, we found that there are 5 types of anaerobic bacteria. These are bacteria that grow without the need for oxygen that are strongly linked to prostate cancer. So we found that many numerous studies, groundbreaking studies, have found that if any of the anaerobic bacteria found in the urine of men who are diagnosed with early prostate cancer, those who had that bacteria present have a significantly greater risk of developing a more aggressive form of prostate cancer versus those who don't have. So if you have one person who is diagnosed with early prostate cancer and another one who's diagnosed with the same stage of early prostate cancer, you would think both of them are for cure. And for the vast majority of these men, they are for cure. But if we look at the testing the urine and we look at the presence of one of these 5 types of anaerobic bacteria, we find that your chance, if you do have that bacteria present, your chance of that early disease progressing later to a more aggressive form, advancing form of prostate cancer is 2.6 times greater if you had the bacteria present. So, well, maybe in 20 years we can determine that because there's a link between aggressive forms of prostate cancer, if we can prevent and treat these types of bacteria, we can reduce the incidence of prostate cancer. Another interesting finding in the last 5 to 10 years is our understanding in terms of our dairy milk calcium intake and the link with prostate cancer. So, you know, the old commercials, they'll say milk does the body good. But also, I'll also counter that with everything is in moderation. Right. So they found that, and this is going to be shocking, that particularly for black men, so genetically, black men are better calcium absorbers than our Caucasian counterparts. And that has a strong link in terms of our predisposition developing prostate cancer. Men of African ancestry already have a high risk of getting prostate cancer. In terms of what are the greatest risk of developing prostate cancer, advancing age is number 1. Being of African ancestry is number 2. So it's a very racist disease. It's a very discriminatory, prejudiced disease.
Wow.
We as black men are predisposed to not only getting prostate cancer at a greater rate than our other racial counterparts, but a more aggressive form of the disease that also presents at an earlier 6 to 7 years earlier than Caucasians, for example. So we have to be very diligent in picking up prostate cancer, particularly because if you look at the demographics of our society, we are primarily of African ancestry.
Is that throughout the diaspora?
It is.
I mean, but is it also, I guess, do you find like the same, statistics inside, or is it mostly where?
It's all black men. For example, in the United Kingdom, they've conclusively seen in many long-term studies that your risk of getting prostate cancer as a man of either Caribbean or African ancestry in the United Kingdom, 1 in 4 in your lifetime. 1 in 4 are going to get prostate cancer.
Wow.
In this country, it's estimated about 1 in 6. African American men, it's about 1 in 5 to 1 in 6. So the number 1 cancer in this country across the board is prostate cancer, far exceeding breast cancer. But it is one of the easiest cancers to treat. The prognosis is excellent if we can pick it up when it's early disease, organ confined. The 5-year survival is close to 100%. The 10-year survival is as close as 96, 97, even 98%. So the early detection is key in terms of prostate cancer, and we have so many ways of picking up prostate cancer early. And in many cases, we pick it up so early where the disease itself is so early, where it's clinically insignificant, where it's so low volume, it's so early. We need to treat you immediately because the disease is a incidental finding. It's inconsequential to you. So many cases, and there is a treatment regime for that. It's called active surveillance. We'll actively surveil you until the prostate cancer upstages in terms of its volume, in terms of its pathological stage, and then we can offer you the cure.
Yeah. So you're saying about dairy limited? At what point?
So it's dairy calcium intake. It's not non-dairy. So studies have shown that there's no link between prostate cancer and non-dairy milk. It's dairy milk, and there are reasons for it. There are hypotheses that are strongly are postulated and strongly confirmed through long-term studies. So basically, the threshold that they found is that if your daily milk calcium intake exceeds 1 3/4 cups of milk, or equivalent of 430 grams, that is a threshold that puts you over in terms of, and the reason for that is basically it's the sex hormone that's present in dairy milk. So we look at when we get the dairy milk, 75% of cows are lactating cows are pregnant.
Right.
So we're looking at what is present in that milk, and we're looking at the levels of the hormone.
So wait, does that include? Because I hear you say grams. Nobody knows how to use grams.
Well, that's why I said the equivalent of 1 3/4 cups of milk.
Right.
You don't want to exceed that, particularly as a black man, because we're very efficient absorbers of calcium. That puts us at a greater risk in terms of getting prostate cancer.
Right. Does that include cheese?
Anything related to milk. Anything
Ice
related
cream,
to dairy
cheese,
milk. Anything related to dairy
any
milk.
of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So any products that use dairy milk,
Wow.
calcium, that's also included. So we're looking at, prostate cancer is very hormone responsive. It's a very hormone responsive cancer. We have higher levels of hormones such as insulin-like growth factor in dairy milk, which promotes certain cancers, including prostate. So again, I'd like to emphasize there's no correlation between non-dairy calcium milk intake in prostate cancer, but there is a strong correlation between a certain threshold of intake of dairy milk calcium intake, particularly if you're a black man. You want to limit your dairy milk calcium intake. And that in itself can reduce your chance of getting prostate cancer. For example, if you exceed 1 3/4 cups of dairy milk calcium, your chance of getting prostate cancer is 25% greater than if you limit your dairy milk. So that's significant.
Yeah, definitely. Wow.
That's probably like a pint of ice cream, if even all that. It might be. It probably is just a bowl of milk.
Well, and many are already having issues with lactose, right?
No,
so
that's right. That's a personal issue that you.
Well, so just find the alternatives. Find the alternatives. Let's take this call really quickly. That we've got to take a break. But caller, good morning. You are on the air with Dr. Gregory Pinto. Good morning.
Good morning, Dwight, your guest. Dr. Pinto, this is Dr. Al Monroe, the younger. I just wanted to get an idea of when do you guys start screening for prostate cancer, especially seeing as how we have a high incidence here in the Bahamas. What is a good age to start screening for prostate cancer?
Excellent question. The issue is it's an individual thing, but across the board, we're starting at the age of 40, and not only at the age of 40, but every year after that. So it's all well and good if you are going to do it when you're 40, 41, 42, and then you're going to wait 4 years and not do it until you're 46. In those intervening years, that's the time when you could develop prostate cancer, and we're going to miss that window of treating you. So it's unlikely for you to get prostate cancer when you're 40, unless you have maybe a genetic predisposition. And I'll speak a little bit more about the genetics of prostate cancer, particularly related to what we see in very high incidence here is BRCA gene, breast cancer associated gene mutations. So if you have a strong family history where you have breast cancer, history of pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, so men and women can inherit the breast cancer gene mutation. There's type 1 and type 2. So if, for example, if you have a type 1 mutation, your chance of getting prostate cancer is 8 times greater by the time you're age 70 than if you don't have it. For type 2, you have a 3 times greater risk of getting prostate cancer in your lifetime than if you don't. So in those subsets and those families, it's great to do genetic testing, and I do it all the time, so that we can be very proactive in surely going to get prostate cancer in your lifetime. You already have the risk factor of being of African ancestry. If you also have one of the BRCA gene mutations, your chance is very high for you getting prostate cancer in your lifetime. But then I'll go back to the reassuring factors. If we can pick up prostate cancer, your chance of cure is nearly 100%. Yeah. We can do it in so many minimally invasive ways that don't even require surgical management. We can treat you for prostate cancer confidentially, basically painlessly, without any convalescence or long recovery on a Saturday, and without exaggeration, you can be back to work on a Monday or a Tuesday and go on with your life, with a good quality life.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, more with Dr. Gregory Pinto. We'll take more of your calls and your text messages. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Stay with us.
Awesome, 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 Roby Sam. Buy down, buy down, buy down.
Thinking of adding a little color to your house? Well, what are you waiting for? There's no better time to give your house a facelift than during the Colors Free promotion at CBS Bahamas. When you purchase Pratt & Lambert, color is absolutely free. You heard it right. You don't get charged for mixing colors. Now you can paint the outside, the inside, and all the accent walls a different color and save big all at the same time. Who knows? You can use that extra cash to watch a movie, get some food, or even grab a coffee. Visit CBS Bahamas today in the Southwest Plaza, where color is free.
We're good for you.
We know how important collecting your money can be to the success of your business. Start your relationship with Fidelity today so that we can show you the many options available to you with our merchant services. From click and pay options online to merchant terminals and e-commerce options. We're here to help your business succeed. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 52-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit any of our branches.
Get a merry makeover this Christmas from Scotiabank. Apply for a Scotia Plan loan to win a home renovation. This Christmas, unwrap the celebration. $3,000 for your home, new lamp, new decor, new couch that you
Win
own.
a $3,000 home goods gift card when you apply for a Scotia Plan loan this Christmas. We're giving you the gift of a low interest rate and up to 2 months with no payments. Plan the perfect Christmas with your Scotia Plan loan. Use it for any purpose, plus benefit from flexible payment terms. Apply for a Scotia Plan loan now to enter to win a merry home makeover.
If you're into great tasting chips, you know Frito-Lay has got you covered with your favorite flavors like Original Lay's, Doritos, Cheetos, Funyuns, and much, much more. Well, not only can you enjoy your favorite chips at a great price, but you can also enter the Frito-Lay Scooter Giveaway and win one of 5 Yamaha Kryptonite scooters. Check your favorite grocery stores for details at wbahamas.com. The Frito-Lay Scooter Giveaway ends December 16th and is brought to you by Island Wholesale. Don't miss out.
Mr. Campbell, we have your test results. Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
Good news. No, wait, bad news. Give it to me straight, doctor.
Your blood work came back. You've got erythrocytes all over.
Oh no, this can't be happening.
Here's the good news. That just means red blood cells. It's a good thing. You're completely fine.
With 99% of medical claims paid in 5 days, we're like a doctor who doesn't want to be a comedian. CG Atlantic, medical and life. Good like that.
Okay, class, let's begin today's history lesson. Ancient civilization used to visit stadiums to watch musicians perform. It was called a live concert.
Teacher, what year was that?
Researchers believe it was around 2019. Normal life feels like a long... As things return to normal, remember, it is essential to be fully immunized against all vaccine-preventable diseases like COVID-19, rubella, polio, hepatitis, mumps, and influenza. This message is brought to you by PAHO WHO, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Government of Canada, and the United States of America.
I used to think of the bank as my personal ATM machine. If I wanted a new car, new furniture, a weekend trip to Miami, no problem, just max out the credit card or top up my loan. I was a big baller until I realized that 75% of my salary was going to pay back all those loans. Fidelity's personal financial coaching was the best solution. Fidelity gave me a plan with a debt consolidation loan that has a built-in savings that pays 5% interest. I now only have one low monthly payment, plus money in my pocket. Give Fidelity Bank a call at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit any of Fidelity's locations or visit a website at fidelitygroup.com.
This
collecting your
is
money.
Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Oh, yeah. All right. My beautiful island.
And we're back here with Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan along with Stephen Hanna. We are talking with Dr. Gregory Pinto, talking about cancer prevention. And we've been talking about HPV and its linked to cervical cancer and other types of cancers and what we can do to prevent them. You can call in 323-6232. 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796. All right, here we go. We knew we'd get a couple of these, Dr. Pinto. So is he saying that 11, 12, and 13-year-olds are having sex?
Absolutely not. So I don't know. We jump to that.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
What we're trying to do is make sure that you have immunity to HPV, which is strongly linked to cervical cancer, which in essence, if we have every woman in this country and every, as a young preteen or teenager, getting the HPV vaccine, the same for young boys as men, we can basically eradicate HPV in our society, and the chance of getting cervical cancer is almost non-existent. 94% of cervical cancers can be prevented by getting the HPV vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Well, this texter says HPV is now mandatory in the public clinics. I don't know. Do you know anything about that? What does that mean even?
No.
No, that can't be.
It's strongly encouraged, and that's why knowledge is key. As a democratic society, we encourage persons by providing sound information. This is the information age, obviously. If you want to find any education, educate yourself, you want to look at reputable sources in terms of even going online. But essentially, if you, anybody, a loved one or a neighbor or even a stranger go through the painful ordeal of dying of cervical cancer when you're a young woman, even if you're 65 years old, still it's a tragedy no matter what the age, but it's exponentially worse when you see someone who has another potentially 50 years of their life ahead of them, and they're dying of a horrible, preventable cancer, and they're leaving their children as orphans and their husband as a widow.
Yeah.
Why are we even debating it?
Yeah. This person says here, I didn't know about this when my daughters were young, but I've made sure that my teenage granddaughter, who was 15, she got hers at 12. That's wonderful. Good to hear that. I don't understand that. Let's take this call while we try to figure out what this question is asking. Good morning, caller. You are on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
Yes, I'd like to ask the question, does enlargement or swelling of the prostate is any of concern?
So it's inevitable. As we age, every man's prostate is going to enlarge. So I want to differentiate, first of all, the difference between benign enlargement of the prostate, BPH, benign prostate hyperplasia, and actual prostate cancer. There's a lot of confusion in the community amongst men, even their families, and in terms when you hear a swollen, use the word, a layman's term, swollen prostate or enlarged prostate, immediately they're going to jump to the conclusion it's cancer. So every man, if he reaches a certain age, is going to have an enlargement of their prostate. We look at percentages. Most people accept, and many studies will support this, that when you talk about 60-year-olds, 60% of men are going to have an enlargement of the prostate, benign enlargement of the prostate. That's going to cause, we call lower urinary tract symptoms. So you'll be waking up more frequently in the night to urinate. You're going to have a weaker flow. You're going to have greater urgency. You're not going to be emptying your bladder more completely. Basically, your bladder starts to basically control your life. You're going to live your life. Where's the next bathroom? You're going to have sleepless nights in many cases because you're waking up so many times in the night to urinate. It's going to affect you professionally throughout the day because you got to know where the next bathroom is. You're going to interrupt meetings. You can't, as a teacher, teach a whole class without having to run to urinate. You go to urinate. Not all of it is coming out. Taxi drivers, police officers got to pull over the side of the road to urinate, or have the indignity of driving around with a cup to urinate into because they just can't even reach the side of the road. So in many ways, I always say this, never let the bladder control your life. If you're a woman or man, never let, but every man's going to have an enlargement of the prostate. It's inevitable, but there's so many things that we can do to give you back your quality of life, to allow you to have a restful night, not have to wake up more than twice in the night to urinate, or have to have the indignity of smelling like urine all the time, or afraid to have a glass of water, or afraid to go out in traffic. If you're stuck in traffic, you're gonna wet yourself. So it's an inevitable part of getting older. But there's so many things that we can do. We can give you medications that can effectively treat it. If the medication don't work because your prostate's so enlarged, or if it does work and then inevitably as your prostate continues to get larger, the medication becomes less effective. We can do minimally invasive procedures in less than an hour with not a single cut, not a single stitch, no recovery, that can reduce the size of your prostate for your lifetime, and you don't have any of these issues of peeing frequently or urgently or with a weak flow.
Tell me, so for that process, do you require a referral or?
No, so we have wonderful primary care programs in this country with NHI. You can go to any local clinic in New Providence or the Family Island. You can describe your urinary issues to your family physician or general practitioner. In many cases, they can deal with it at that level. If it reaches a point where they can't deal with it, yes, they'll make a referral to a urologist. And I'm a consultant at Princess Margaret Hospital. We get referrals from local government clinics all the time where they've reached the threshold where whatever medication they may be giving is becoming ineffective, or there's concern related to their prostate. They'll give an appropriate referral, and as a urologist, we'll take it from there.
This text here, you mentioned prostate cancer being racist against black people, but they're asking this texter, I'm just curious if there are any cancers that Asian or Caucasian men are more susceptible to than black men.
Yes, the answer is yes. For example, even as urologists, testicular cancer has a far greater incidence in Caucasians than men of African ancestry. In fact, I'll have colleagues who practice in predominantly African countries where in their entire lifespan of their profession, they've never seen a testicular cancer. Wow. Even here, it's a rarity. I'll go a whole. It's the genetics as well. There's so many genetic predispositions. Testicular cancer is very rare in men of African ancestry. It's a lot higher incidence in Caucasians. The opposite is for prostate cancer. We have a much higher incidence of although men of Caucasian, Asian, Hispanic also have a relatively high incidence of prostate cancer, maybe 1 in 9 versus 1 in 5 and 1 in 6, but still it's relatively high.
Okay.
It's probably the milk.
Let's take another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Hi.
Morning.
All right. You got Dr. Pinto. You said that dairy milk is prostate cancer.
A certain level of intake in terms of dairy, calcium, milk intake, yes, particularly for men of African ancestry. I mentioned the threshold of more than 1 3/4 cups in total intake per day can increase your risk of getting prostate cancer by as much as 25%. And that's there's so many reasons for that, as I mentioned, because it's usually because we can think of it as the hormones that are present in dairy, and prostate cancer is very hormone responsive as a cancer. It can promote prostate cancer occurring.
This person's asking back to HPV and the vaccine. Is 19 years old too old for a boy or a girl? Is it too old once you get to 19?
No. So I mentioned you can even, it's on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, it depends on the number of sexual partners you've had, but we've even given it to persons in their late 20s. So 19, no.
So, but once you've had a child, are you not going to, it's not recommended? Is that how it works as well?
Again, let's look at the individual. Let's look at what your sexual history is and everything else.
Yeah.
So I can't say across the board that for this certain history, no.
Okay.
But inquire, because it's such a great benefit. It may benefit you.
And I guess you have to be very honest with the doctor. And we'll take one more call and a couple more text messages. We'll get to the call in just a bit, but this person's asking, I had a prostatectomy surgery last July. After the 9th month, discovered that my PSA numbers were elevated. The doctor recommended 33 sessions of radiation treatment, which I did. What caused the prostate cancer to return? I was 50 when it was discovered.
So, unless I know exactly what we're dealing with, you can't just say across the board why it occurred. I don't know at what stage you were diagnosed, what in terms of how aggressive. So, every prostate cancer is different. Even within the individual, the genetics of it is very different. So, as I mentioned, we've reached the point that we could actually do genetic testing, not only on the individual to determine your risk preemptively of getting prostate cancer and what risk profile that you may have, but we can also do genetic testing on the actual tumor to put you in, also stratify you in terms of what is your risk of recurrence. So in those cases, if you're very high risk, we may want to do things such as adjuvant radiation, or we might want to provide what we call androgen deprivation therapy for 18 months or 2 years after we do such things as to starve any potential prostate cancer cells from getting any testosterone for that first 2 years. So that's why the importance of genetics, and that's what we're promoting, and that's what urologists throughout the world are promoting in the last few years in particular, is actual, because we have it available, is genetic testing of the actual tumor. Mm-hmm. So we can stratify every individual. It's not just a shock that this individual got a recurrence versus this one who didn't. We can be preemptive in knowing that, all right, you're at very high risk of getting a recurrence, then let's effectively manage you as a high-risk person.
Yeah. All right, let's take this final call. Good morning, caller, on there.
Good morning. Same caller again. I just asked the question because I wanted to point out that we could have a replacement for dairy milk, which is actually hemp milk. Hemp milk is actually very beneficial with omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So, I mean, it boosts the brain, and it helps actually with Alzheimer's. So,
I'm very much in agreement. There's some non-dairy milk calcium intake. You even speak about almond milk. I mean, there are 10 different forms of non-dairy calcium sources. So, yes, you do. Calcium is fundamental for every system of the body. The list is endless. So we need to have normal calcium in terms of every organ of our body, every system in our body, but it doesn't have to come from dairy milk.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate it. Okay, and very quickly, Movember, what are we encouraging there?
So Movember is an annual event where men are encouraged to not shave, basically to grow a mustache, to promote men's health awareness so that we can speak about these issues where men are notoriously like to keep their head in the sand and they don't want to be aware of what about their body, about their health. So knowledge is key. If you know that something that you're dealing with silently, your neighbor might be dealing with it, you're dealing with it, your cousin might be dealing with it, and that we can effectively treat it confidentially and compassionately and comprehensively, maybe you'll come in and seek a physician's consult for the first time in 20 years instead of waking up 10 times in the night to urinate.
Yeah. Great advice, powerful words this morning. I hope people are paying attention. Dr. Gregory Pinto, how can people find out more from you and get in contact with you?
I'm a consultant at Princess Margaret Hospital, so if you have any issues of any concern, listen to your body. You know if there's something going wrong. Don't suffer in silence, whether it's erectile dysfunction. I mention all the time, you can always rise again. If you're having anything abnormal happening with you, with your body, whether it's urinary, if you have a risk of prostate cancer in your family, and every man I'm speaking to in this country has a high risk of getting prostate cancer, then get your surveillance, please. That can save your life. And as I mentioned, if you're worried about the fear of pain and going through a long convalescence recovery after we treat you for prostate cancer, I want to dispel that notion because we can treat you in so many ways effectively for prostate cancer where it's minimally invasive and you can be up and about with no recovery, with an excellent prognosis.
Okay, wonderful stuff. Dr. Gregory Pinto, thank you so much. You're going to be back with us next week, and looking forward to that discussion as well as you're making some headlines, news in the country, but we'll look forward to talking to you again. We'll be back. We're going to break for news and be back with Morning Blend Business. Stay with us here on Guardian Radio 96.9.
exposed to COVID-19, have symptoms, or traveled recently, get tested so that you can have peace of mind about your status. Just visit one of our locations on New Providence at the University of the Bahamas or Golden Gates Plaza, weekdays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Eleuthera at the Three Island Dock, Mondays through Thursdays 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Fridays and Saturdays 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sundays 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Exuma at the Regatta Park, weekdays 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Saturdays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sundays 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. On Abaco at Maxwell Food Store, Mondays through Saturdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The COVID-19 test results will be ready in 15 minutes, and the tests are free.
This message is brought to you by PAHO WHO and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Florida Auto Parts can deliver all the auto parts your car will ever need, direct from the USA and from around the world. Florida Auto Parts provides fast delivery on auto parts, and we ship throughout the Bahamas, genuine or aftermarket, new or used, and all for the best price. Call Florida Auto Parts Trusted Parts Rep on WhatsApp at 1-772-8777 to save on your next auto parts purchase. Florida Auto Parts, the right parts at the right price.
I used to think of the bank as my personal ATM machine. If I wanted a new car, new furniture, a weekend trip to Miami, no problem, just max out the credit card or top up my loan. I was a big baller until I realized that 75% of my salary was going to pay back all those loans. Fidelity's personal financial coaching was the best solution. Fidelity gave me a loan that has a built-in savings that pays 5% interest. I now only have one low monthly payment, plus money in my pocket. Give Fidelity Bank a call at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit any of Fidelity's locations or visit a website at fidelitygroup.com.
It's the most rewarding time of the year. To RBC, get a loan to buy whatever. RBC makes it better. Get a loan and don't pay till New Year.
Make Christmas what you want it to be with a personal loan from RBC. Apply at rbc.com/Caribbean/loan and don't pay till February 2023. Conditions apply.
Get a loan and don't pay till New Year. To RBC.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Blend Business on this Friday, November 11th, 2022. Welcome back to our Morning Blend listeners. Once again, I am Dwight Strachan. Stephen had to leave us, and this morning it's our Safe and Sound series, so our monthly series as we look at safety and security measures. And this morning we are talking again with Gamal Nuri with preventative measures. This morning we're focusing on emergency crisis disaster management from readiness to response to recovery. Gamal Nuri, always a pleasure. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dwight. How are you? Thanks for having me. Good morning, Bahamas.
Good morning. Doing well, and I hope the same for you. And so, hey, here we are in November talking about this. A bit of a surprise, but of course, the hurricane season goes on until November 30th. But I'm pretty sure you won't just be talking about natural disasters this morning.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed.
Okay. I figured. Because there are all kinds of disasters, right?
All types of disasters, Dwight, that go beyond just the natural occurrences, emergency crisis, disaster management. is a very important functionality in business. And certainly there are various types of disasters, man-made, misfunctioning, dysfunction. So certainly there are many things that we can, put this and address with this type of functionality.
All right. So before we get deeper into it, just want to know, does that change the way you deal with a crisis if it is man-made versus natural overall in the general scheme of things? Do you have to handle certain things in a specific way depending on the nature of it?
Man-made events usually occur because of negligence, of deliberate actions, or just oversight. Persons are negligent in their behavior, their performance, their responsibility. They are deliberate. The criminal acts that caused September 11th is a prime example of a man-made event that didn't just impact from physical infrastructure, but impacted finances and business operations around the world. It shut the Bahamas down for about 3 days, and that was a man-made event. So certainly how it's managed, how it's dealt with versus a natural event where you have limited to no control on a weather phenomena or an earthquake or how flooding occurs or something of that like what we experienced over the last few days with this late occurring storm coming towards the end. Persons are already probably packed up their hurricane readiness equipment and the hurricane readiness mindset. We're already playing Christmas music. So
Yes.
people are like, okay,
They ate through their canned goods and stuff already.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They donated it or they ate it up. But certainly natural events they're unpredictable. They're unpredictable and they're predictable. For example, I always say with a hurricane, for example, we know the season, we know the timing, we have some warning systems out there. And really, if we've done the necessary preparedness, the readiness aspect of it, then the impact should not be as great. If we have the controls in our business operations, if we have the necessary oversight from regulatory oversight to auditing to to compliance functionalities within business, then man-made events should not be as devastating. It should not go to a disaster. And I think people need to understand too the difference between emergency, crisis, disaster, because we use them synonymously when they.
Oh boy. Okay, so that's a good place to kick this off. Then let's define those. What is the difference between emergency, crisis, and disaster?
So I'll use a very simple example. Let's say there is a fire in a building, or a fire alarm goes off. The emergency response or the emergency is the immediate removal from that danger. So hopefully you would have done some evacuation drills. We know how to get out. We know how to use the fire extinguisher if the fire is impacting our exit route, something of that sort. So that's your emergency. The crisis is you go to use that fire exit, but for some reason the door doesn't open.
Wow.
The door has never been, because you never tested the door, or someone in maintenance or in the facilities department of your organization decided to stack some boxes up behind that door or boxes in front of that door. So the access to that emergency exit is blocked. You have to change your route. So that is now the next emergency exit is perhaps across on the other side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And then subsequently the disaster would be life is lost, more damage because we weren't able to respond to that initial emergency. And certainly we didn't have enough preparedness for the crisis. We don't know where the next exit is. We have to go, like I said, across the building. That is a crisis. And then subsequently, like I said, more damage to the infrastructure, or life is lost as a result of poor handling of the emergency, subsequently poor handling of the crisis, and there you have the disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So the disasters are usually complete loss of your operation. So again, if you compare, you perhaps an office is burnt, that's a crisis because now you lose operation, but now you lost the entire building. So again, that's the difference between those two, and you start to draw those lines.
Right. Right. And readiness, when you talk about that, really, how ready are we for some of these, especially not the natural disasters, but the ones that spring up because of negligence? Are we really doing enough in businesses and companies to prepare employees, staff for these scenarios?
Yeah, readiness goes back to you as a business. You would have done your risk assessment, you would have done impact analysis, and you would have determined that you don't need, let's say you're on a boat. Your readiness isn't the fact that you know that your boat is susceptible to sinking. When we look at like the classic story behind the Titanic, why it was such a disaster. You know you're going out to sea. You know you don't have the necessary life-saving apparatus in place. So the business, if we bring that to a business scenario, the business knows the inherent risks in their particular operation. For example, and I'm going to throw some rocks, but any business operating in this country should have a backup generator. That's just a given. I mean, if you are serious about operating, you should have a backup generator.
Wow.
It's just one of those things inherently about operating in the Bahamas. And that's unfortunate, but that's just a reality. Again, with that generator as a business, you should know the capacity or the life cycle on that particular generator. In other words, if we were to lose power and all the critical operating systems, so we talk about capacity, can all of the critical operating systems function off of that generator? And then how long does that generator give us power? Is it a day? Is it 2 days? Is it 3 days? Then from that, we would have already negotiated with a fuel provider to ensure that when we are reaching the end of, let's say it's 4 days and we're reaching the end of day 3, we're calling in that fuel provider to say, hey man, we need you to top us up. So that's your management cycle. So you know what your inherent risks are, how they're going to impact your operations, and you put in strategies to make sure that you're ready for the event. Are we doing enough? I think many businesses are doing it, but then you do have these one-ups where persons who want to have a criminal or a malignant intent to your organization. It's unavoidable. I mean, that's the inherent risk of doing business. But so you put systems in place. So your recovery, we talk about readiness response. Well, initially your response is quick, timely, and the downtime from that negligence, that criminal act, the deliberate act, is not as long. But you have to be real with yourself. If you're operating, if you're in a bank, if you're in a healthcare facility, if you're operating a manufacturing plant, if you are a small business versus a large business where your resources may not be as much, if you're competing against a multinational corporation, but you're right on the corner of First and Second or First and Main, you have limited resources. So all of these things are part of your readiness plan to know, so you understand what you're up against.
All right, so let's say you are with a small to medium-sized business and you don't know whether they are doing the tests on the, you said. You don't know whether anyone inspects the fire extinguishers. You don't know, you've never heard of a drill at the place. What should you be doing if you're just a cog in the wheel employee?
You should be escalating those concerns to your supervisor, to your manager. Even as an anonymous tip to the fire department, the Department of Health and Safety, and I think NIB. All of there are different avenues where you can advocate your concern. You could speak to anonymously if you wish that, hey, because the fire department has certain requirements for buildings, and they can mandate that a building takes the necessary action to have things done. So it's multifaceted on how you as an individual. So it'll escalate. Speak to the supervisor. Speak to your manager. This is what's happening in my area. Our emergency exit is constantly blocked with boxes. Or the emergency exit doesn't open. Or when we exit the emergency exit, we walk into a backyard that has a gate lock because of security. So there's multiple things that are out there. But staff have, or even a tenant in a building.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you are a small business and you're operating out of a shopping plaza or a building.
Right.
You can advocate to the facilities manager or to the landlord that certain things are not in place, and they expose that building to liability in the event there's an emergency and damage is caused to my business. I'm not able to recover business as a result of the owner's negligence. So certainly there are ways to address that, as opposed to being a victim and sitting and waiting and thinking that you don't have an avenue to address those things.
Wow. How often should these drills take place?
They should take place at minimum at least twice a year, in my opinion. However, I guess I'm a bit, that's usually the standard mandated policy. But I think that there should also be a awareness program that's ongoing, that's done perhaps every month, where if it's only an email, if you shoot that out and you say, this is what happens if this occurs. For more information, go to this website, go to this internal organizational link and find out more about how you can manage a particular situation. So an awareness program should be ongoing. Similarly, as a national program, we talk about hurricane season, the 1st of June to the 30th of November. So between June 1st and November 30th, aggressive awareness reminders, but from January to December, there should be a constant reminder, because we're still susceptible to flooding. This is especially, we've seen that in the last 5 years or so, as we remove a lot of the physical land infrastructure, the drainage, the runoff, we remove those things for quote unquote development. Then it should be an annual thing going on from January to December, making persons aware of what they need to do in the event there's something like flooding, as we say, king tide, and there's we've seen this happen on off season. You have to have an ongoing awareness program. If we are looking at a particular season like hurricane, then certainly your June to November aggressive, this should be something taught in the schools, because these are the same kids who are going to be coming out and being of employees, business owners, things of that sort. So they shouldn't just be learning about this when they graduate or when they get into the work environment. They should know about this from high school at minimum, in my opinion.
Yeah. And do companies like yours, I know we talked about it during Cyber Security Awareness Month, that you will do, test these systems, but do companies like yours do audits of these physical systems?
Definitely. This is a niche market for preventative measures. This is what we do. We do audits, we test, we evaluate, make recommendations, provide, if so desired, solutions to improve upon your readiness, response, and recovery and resumption efforts. This is our niche market, where we focus very much on how businesses can improve upon what they have in place. Many businesses you find, and they have it. They may have a plan written out, and this is probably in many instances is something copied and pasted from the internet. But it's not applicable to their operation. Let's say in Exuma, they have a plan that's, first of all, like I said, it's usually copy and pasted. So here's the plan for New Providence, where you have more of resource availability. But when you take that same plan and cookie cutter that to Exuma or Acklands or Inagua, where you don't have the resource availability, where the government resources are stretched, have you tested it? Have you evaluated its effectiveness and its practicality in a different environment, in a different location? So certainly this is what we do, without a doubt.
Now, I know a few minutes ago you said, you could even alert the fire department if you feel that your company's not doing enough. But should you, I guess it's not going to be for everybody, but should you volunteer to set up, I guess is a weird question, volunteer a committee within the company, even though you're just a cog in the wheel, to be a part of the group that goes around to check these systems?
I answered your question on the assumption that there was already a committee. You should have a committee.
That's funny. That's very funny. That's very funny, Gamal. I'm sure there's not a anyway. Yes, that's Just in case there isn't. Mm-hmm.
If there isn't, then again, let's take a step back. Before you escalate out of the organization, then you should definitely have escalated in the organization, form the committee, take on the responsibility, volunteer to assist in promoting that type of awareness. Without a doubt, you should, as they say in some businesses, you should become the champion for health and safety, or the champion for fire awareness, or the champion for fraud prevention.
Even if you don't have shares in the company. Even if you don't have shares in the company, because your life depends on it, right?
Yeah, you have a vested interest. This is where you work.
Yep.
This is where you're going to be sitting, and the business's success is your success.
Yes.
And I think, you have to appreciate that you are a owner in a sense, because you make it happen. You make the business what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you should take some type of ownership, for a lack of a better word. Again, if only for your benefit, for your survival.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about after there is a disaster, a crisis, an emergency, and you realize, boy, we failed. That didn't go the way it should have gone at all. What are the things that you need to do after you get to that point? And things you need to change. We're talking with Gamal Nuri with Preventative Measures, and we're talking about emergency, crisis, and disaster management, and from readiness to response to recovery in Morning Blend Business in our Safe and Sound series. We'll be back in just a bit. Stay with us.
I used to think of the bank as my personal ATM machine. If I wanted a new car, new furniture, a weekend trip to Miami, no problem, just max out the credit card or top up my loan. I was a big baller until I realized that 75% of my salary was going to pay back all those loans. Fidelity's personal financial coaching was the best solution. Fidelity gave me a plan with a debt consolidation loan that has a built-in savings that pays 5% interest. I now only have one low monthly payment, plus money in my pocket. Give Fidelity Bank a call at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit any of Fidelity's locations or visit a website at fidelitygroup.com.
The Access Accelerator Small Business Development Center is here to help small businesses throughout the entire. To better serve you, we've made it easier to contact us. Call 461-7232, WhatsApp 359-0626 or 359-2394, email helpdesk@spdcbahamas.com, or submit a ticket when you visit our help center at accessaccelerator.org. The Access Accelerator, empowering small business.
It's been 35 years since Custom Computers was founded, and we'd like to celebrate that milestone by thanking you, our clients and customers. You've inspired 35 years of expert service and support, partnering with the world's leading brands like HP, Apple, and Microsoft. We take pride in setting the bar for what you expect and deserve from a homegrown Bahamian business. We're here to serve you when you need us, so call 396-1101. Custom Computers, raising the standard since 1987.
Earning zero interest on your savings at the bank? With as little as $100, you can start earning interest on your money while you're sleeping, eating, or standing in line at the bank with the CFAL Savings Express Plan. Ready to invest? Start by putting $1,000 in and earn interest there too. Because at CFAL, your interest is our interest. Visit CFAL.com to start now. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations of Bahamians.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
It's time for your morning business report, brought to you by CFAL. Calling the water supply issues plaguing Eleuthera very serious. Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayers says it will take 6 months for specially designed and built storage tanks to be completed and installed on the island. a series of mechanical failures beginning in June, leaving part of the island without potable water for days at a time. While the government has provided temporary water storage solutions, challenges persist. Sayers saying that the water system is a serious problem. He says the operator of the desalination plant faces challenges that they've had to mitigate against the frequency of the disruptions. He says the government has commissioned a manufacturer in the United States to provide 2 storage tanks, which are being designed with a certain level of resilience in terms of glass lining. He says the time frame for that is about 6 months. Read more about what he has to say in today's Guardian Business section. Concerns regarding the underinsured have resurfaced again with the threat of Tropical Storm Nicole this week, with Grand Island Chamber of Commerce President James Carey lamenting the low take-up of insurance among small businesses on land. Nicole strengthened to a Category 1 hurricane while over Grand Bahama on Wednesday, but did not cause any significant damage. Just last week, Deputy Managing Director of International Monetary Fund Bo Lee raising concerns about generally low insurance penetration in the Caribbean that are among the highest at risk for climate disasters. That was before Nicole developed quickly in the Atlantic and threatened Abaco and Grand Bahama. You can read what Carey's saying in today's Guardian Business section. Meanwhile, while the center of circulation of Tropical Storm Nicole did not directly impact New Providence, surging seas associated with the storm caused a young entrepreneur to lose $10,000 worth of product he recently secured after winning a $7,500 grant in a pitch competition held by the Access Accelerator Small Business Development Center. Kendrick Delaney, owner of the New Duff and a first-time author, cradled books soaked with seawater after storm surge inundated a storage unit at his home in western New Providence. Delaney telling Guardian Business that his book, called Fairy's Tale of Pig Island, reminds the world that the swimming pigs are a national treasure, and ironically how relevant the topic of climate change and sea level rise has become. You can read more about this setback in today's Guardian Business section. And more from FTX. FTX Digital Markets Chief Sam Bankman-Fried taking to Twitter to apologize for his mishandling of his multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency exchange and related digital asset business. He said, quote, "Right now, my number one priority is doing right by users, and I'm going to do everything I can to do that, to take responsibility and do what I can." He added that he will do everything he can to raise $8 billion to plug the liquidity hole in his company. Meanwhile, principal of Next Level Solutions, Hubert Edwards, telling Guardian Business yesterday that the Securities Commission may have given the cryptocurrency sector a lighter touch regulatory regime that did not quickly expose the internal failings of FTX Digital Markets. SEB announced yesterday in a statement that it froze the assets of FTX Digital Markets and appointed a provisional liquidator for the company. Edwards spoke to Guardian Business following the release of that statement and explained that the SEB should not be cast in a negative light in regards to the failure of one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges. He said the quickly shifting cryptocurrency sector and the share size of the company, once valued at more than $30 billion, were more than enough to test a young and transforming Digital Assets and Registered Exchange Act, the DARE Act, and a regulator still making sense of an ever-changing industry. Overseas, the European Union's Executive Commission slashing its forecast for economic growth next year, saying the 19 countries that use the euro currency will slide into recession over the winter as peak inflation hangs on for longer than expected and high fuel and heating costs erode consumer purchasing power. The European Commission's autumn forecast released today predicts falling economic outlook and output in the last 3 months of this year and the first months of 2023. The Commission says high energy prices, a rising cost of living, higher interest rates, and slowing global trade are expected to tip the EU, the euro area, and most member states into recession in the last quarter of the year. Going forward, the growth forecast for all of 2023 was lowered to 0.3% from 1.4% expected in the previous forecast from July. And Elon Musk warning Twitter employees to brace for difficult times ahead that might end with the collapse of the social media platform if they can't find new ways of making money. Workers who survived last week's mass layoffs are facing harsher work conditions and growing uncertainty about their ability to keep Twitter running safely as it continues to lose high-level leaders responsible for data privacy, cybersecurity, and complying with regulations. That includes Yoel Roth, the Twitter head of trust and safety, a previously little-known executive who became the public face of Twitter's content moderation after Musk took over, and who had been praised by Musk for defending Twitter's ongoing efforts to fight harmful misinformation and hate speech. An executive confirmed Roth's resignation to co-workers on an internal messaging board seen by the Associated Press. The development's part of another whirlwind day in Musk's acquisition of the social media platform. It began with an email to employees from Musk on Wednesday night, ordering workers to stop working from home and to show up in the office Thursday morning. He called his first all-hands meeting Thursday afternoon. Before that, many were relying on the billionaire Tesla CEO's public tweets for clues about Twitter's future. In your market watch from Thursday, your market movers: Bank of the Bahamas moving 130 shares, closing unchanged at 285. Colina Holdings moving 860 shares, unchanged at 850. Commonwealth Bank moving 41,000, up 19 cents to 349. Consolidated Water unchanged at 362. Emira Incorporated unchanged at 911. The Basic All Share Index closing at 2,625.73, up 24.95. That's your Market Watch. And that is your morning business report, brought to you by CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
We're back here with Morning Blend Business on Guardian Radio 96.9. Dwight Strachan with you. It's our Safe and Sound series. We're talking with Gamal Nuri with Preventative Measures about emergency crisis disaster management, from readiness to response to recovery. All right, so let's say we're dealing with a natural disaster or something like that. And you've gone through it, Gamal, and you realize, boy, we messed up, we failed, we did not handle that right. What do you do? What do you do at that point?
If you did not handle it right, it becomes very difficult to implement or move forward with recovery. That impacts your ability to resume operations. And resume operations from a natural disaster is really, bringing back the quality of life that existed, or hopefully improving upon, but certainly bringing back that type of lifestyle that existed prior to the event. And we see that happening in the northern Bahamas, places like Apico and Grand Bahama. We see it even in Exuma, the Ragged Island chain, which a lot of persons sort of that falls to the wayside. How Ragged Island was impacted early, I think mid 2015. They were also impacted by devastating storms. So if you didn't manage the event properly, then certainly resumption of normal or that quality of life is greatly impacted. We hear some Bahamians even talking about abandoning some of these islands because it becomes difficult to maintain that particular lifestyle or resort infrastructure standpoint. So handling it improperly could result in total devastation to the business or to the particular area that you're dwelling in. And we see that with hurricanes. We see that how people are managing or still in recovery mode from Dorian which is what, 2020?
Yep.
So still almost 2 years later.
19.
And the hurricane's still coming.
3 years, 19, yep.
19,
Yeah.
sorry.
So is it tackle it immediately? Get the correct processes, procedures, systems in place immediately, or should you give it a little time so you can think about it carefully about the way forward?
No, I don't. I think you have to have the willpower, political and business willpower to have these things done correctly. And it isn't always about the resource. It's about scheduling out, mapping out how we're going to improve upon certain things gradually over a period of time. A financial thing. It's just having the willpower to implement certain policies. In the Bahamas, and this is not just the islands of Grand Bahama and Abaco. In the Bahamas, any home building on the coast, and I was reminded too, Dwight, the other day that in the Bahamas everybody's on the coast. Even if you're in the center of the islands, you're less than 3 miles away from the coast in some form or fashion. Wherever you go in the Bahamas, maybe not Andros, but certainly you're always on the coast in a true sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, how homes are built. Homes, it should be mandated that homes are built a certain feet above the ground. If we recall, the history would show that homes were built in that fashion, where homes were built in some instances 3 feet off of the ground in the inner city. But for whatever reason, that construction style has been tossed to the side, and we see us building homes that are closer to the ground. But there was a reason for that. Airflow around the building for cooler buildings. And certainly if there was a flood, there was some time gap before those waters really impacted your ability to dwell in that particular home. So homes on the coast should be mandated to be built X amount of feet. When you do the topographical survey, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen. Certainly, all homes, government buildings, homes, mandate that they should have X amount of their power should be coming from solar. So you take some of the power normally off of the BPL grid, and certainly if there is a loss of power because of damaged lines, because of a storm, homes can still, at minimum, they can still have their refrigerator up and running. So these little things this is not new, this is not rocket science. It's there, the strategy is there, and the world, we go to these meetings and not knocking the need to go to and be at the table, but the strategies are there because other countries are doing it. They've tested it and they say, hey, this can work. Why can't we adopt and modify accordingly for our environment some of the things that they're doing in their country, mandating certain building codes for our buildings.
Yeah. We're talking with Gamal Nuri with Preventative Measures. If you have questions, give us a call. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Tweet us, Facebook us, text us, 422-4796.
It's important too, Dwight, to know that your response and your recovery is only as good as your readiness.
Mm-hmm.
And readiness is the pivotal fundamental block that you're going to build that your recovery and resumption depends on. Yeah. If you're not ready, I don't care how grand you want your recovery to be, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Wow. All right. So when you do these audits, when you go around and test these systems, what are some of the common mistakes that you see? Some of the things you have to point out all the time, like this really is a disaster waiting to happen.
Well, the common thing is that the plan has not been tested and validated. It's not been tested and validated. So there, in many instances, there is a document, especially if it's a financial institution where the two major regulators, the Securities Commission and the Central Bank, mandate that you have what we call a business continuity plan. So they have that plan, but it's not been tested. It's not scenario based. It's just, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But it hasn't been tested and validated that what you are saying you're going to do is going to happen. And in many instances, again, when people talk about recovery and business continuity, they immediately think of and limited it to the recovery of their information systems, their computer systems.
Right.
And that's, again, that's not all that there is to it. So those are the two biggest mistakes, that you don't plan, you haven't tested that plan, you haven't validated the plan so that it works. It's like you buy a new pair of shoes and the shoes look good and you never try them on. You never go on the road and test them. And then, like I said, in many instances, if the plan is siloed or it becomes very channeled into information systems. It doesn't talk about let's go back to the fire drill. If during a fire drill or a fire emergency, you run out of the building because you're not actually sitting in your office, you're closer to the fire exit, but your recovery plan speaks to you having access to your laptop, but you left your laptop inside the office. What do you do then? What is this? So you didn't test that plan so that it makes sense. It sounds good. You don't have, IT systems to be recovered and we're going to, work from home. But, during the emergency, I had to leave my laptop in the office. What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
Wow. What is the workaround for that?
All right. We got a call here. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Morning, Dwight. This gentleman make a good sense. You should be advised to the strategy plan or planning for hierarchy with houses and things like that. I remember when I was in Tappan Bay, I know the gentleman that was in Tappan Bay, Lutra. These are houses, capital houses, above the ground. Have you saw that, gentleman? Can you hear me, right?
Yeah, that's what you're saying. He's saying that back in the past, we used to build like that.
Right, but also I'm also illustrating here being the Tappan Bay, Lutra. Tappan Bay, Lutra, where these houses above the ground, the clapboard houses, and I asked them, how long these houses was here? He said hundreds of years ago. And these houses in Tappan Bay withstand numerous of hurricanes. If we had to build, you could actually go under the house and sleep. But it never. You ever been to Tappan Bay, right?
I have, yes.
Huh?
Yes, I have.
You saw the houses?
I think so.
You are a journalist. You ever cry how long those houses were there?
I didn't know.
Yeah, you need to go. When you go back, I know the gentleman know what I'm talking about, but when y'all go back, ask them how long those houses was there. There's no motel. Good gentleman, they treat me well. I asked him. He said those houses was there for decades. So as we plan, we need to look. We have it right here, We need to look at how low-lying areas. How can we plan for low-lying areas? We need pumping machines to pump out the water when we do flood. We just need to plan, and I hope in the Prime Minister come back, he plans for hurricanes. Have a good day, Dwight.
Okay. All right, Gamal. All right. So your final words, our final minute here, to the companies out there who don't know when last they tested their plan, who haven't done the drills, who just think the employees know what to do. They know where the exits are. We'll be straight. What would you say to them?
I would say that they have a responsibility to their employees, to themselves as business owners, to ensure that the business can and so these are the little steps that you need to take to ensure that there is continuity of operations, so that you can survive whatever the disaster is, whether it's a man-made event where someone, we talked about a few weeks ago about ransomware. If that is a man-made infiltration, direct attack on your organization, or if it's a hurricane, or if it's flooding, you owe it to yourself, to your staff, to your investment to ensure that your business can survive and your business can continue.
Yeah.
And preventative measures certainly can assist in making that happen.
Wonderful stuff. Again, let people know how they can reach you and get in contact with you.
Yeah, I'm available. I'm on LinkedIn at Gamal Nuri. You can also reach out to Preventative Measures. We're at 357-9949, or just Google Gamal Nuri, Gamal Nuri, Newry, and my contacts will come up. And certainly they can reach out and continue to listen to The Guardian Morning Blend with yourself and connect, and we can reach out.
All right. Wonderful stuff. Gamal Nuri, have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Great information as always.
Thank you very much, Dwight, for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Hey, it's the weekend. We'll be back on Monday with more Morning Blend and Morning Blend Business right here on Guardian Radio 96.9. Everybody have a great time. Be safe. We'll talk again on Monday. Stay tuned for On the Clock with Aaron Green coming up next.